Get down.
Let me clear my throat. Yeah. Oh, that's better. That's better. Somebody pass around the offering. Since I'm always preaching on tracks, you feel me? I might as well get paid for it. Sermon of the day. You right where you supposed to be, baby. Informant, that information for me. Important you get a portion of fortune pouring. Confession, fortunately, blessings on now they snoring. You mellow, so focused on scoring. Got your underperforming. I never expect something, never assume nothing. Judging me for my past, but that's why I'm triumphant. I don't demand, I know where I stand like engineer hands. Watch how my life pans. Cut that game plan. Show out like a jotter. Pop out like a cutter. Telling the quick rock, skipping the course, squares like hopscotch. This gonna be my mood to my beat drop. Putting my boogie shoes in my diddy boots. Ain't no stop. I'ma make the rest of my life live. Yeah, I'ma make the rest of my life live. Gonna make the rest of my life the best of my life. Yeah, I'ma make the rest of my life live. I'ma make the rest of my life live. Gonna make the rest of my life the best of my life. Congratulations on the celebration. I know I don't whip out and need never validation. No congratulations on no celebration. I know I don't whip out and need never validation. Yeah. If having hope is dangerous, call me evil Knievel. You leading on the wrong side, living with peasant needles. So lethal, made Shane Black wanna write a sequel. Cause I snuggle my dream till it's seen as illegal. And I still probably will, cause I can never give up. I got my goals calling me, how could I never pick up?
Happy Thursday. How are y'all doing out there tonight? Welcome in, everybody. I hope your week has been good. I hope it's been great. I hope that you have made it through. We all here, so we've made it through, right? Another week. Can you believe that April is almost over? We are entering the last few days. Sorry, y'all are feeling crooked. Y'all pray for me. Somebody pray for me. All right. Well, again, welcome in, everyone. It is my favorite night of the week. Why? Because I get to spend some time with you in this amazing space known as the Bravo with Sheila Network here on YouTube. And I want to really take a moment to just thank you all for rocking with us from the beginning up until now. And we hope that you will continue to roll with us through the remainder of the year so that we can have great conversation or continue in our great conversations. Here we have real conversations with real resolutions from real people. We are not in counseling sessions. This is not therapy. We just talking, right? It's not church. We just talking. And here on Thursday nights, we talk about all the things that, people want to talk about, but don't talk about, but should talk about, that need to be talked about, but we really don't want to talk about them. Well, we do it here. This is the perfect place for it. So good evening, everyone. Thank you for tuning in. For those who don't know, although I know that you do know, I am your Thursday night host, Lady Dawn B, and I am pleased to be here with you as usual. And we pay homage to the queen of the Bravo with Sheila Network, Queen Pastor Sheila herself. She is, I call her affectionately, my Auntie Bravo. She's in the building, says blessings to everyone. Happy Thursday. Y'all forgive me. I know y'all understand it because, allergies is what it is right now, this season and this time. So y'all bear with a sister on tonight, okay? My eyes is tired. Just we ain't going to talk about it. We just going to move on with life, right? Because we here. But anyway, salute to you, Auntie Bravo. Thank you for yielding me this captain's chair so we can have great discussions with some great people on tonight. And so with that being said, I also want to take a minute to welcome in, as always, the greatest moderator to ever do it in these YouTube streets and beyond, none other than Indonesia. And we thank her for being here on tonight. She says, hey, at Bravo with Sheila Network. And hey, Dawn B. Hey, man. My love, it's good to see you. Thank you for always being on your post. And while we are greeting her, I just want to say to all of you that are here on tonight, please do me a favor, hit that thumbs up button. I see there are 4 of us here. If we could just Just don't, you ain't even got to be gentle about it. It's not sensitive. Just tap it. It's free 99 for you, but it means everything to us that it as it helps to push our content out into these YouTube streets even further. It helps us with our algorithm, and we appreciate it so very much. We also want to invite you to like, to subscribe, and to share to this amazing channel, because there are other people and other shows that go on, like Mondays Beyond the Mic. That's right. Right here on Monday nights at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, we have Dr. Elaine, who is the host, and I am so graciously her Robin, Batman. I'm the Robin to her Batman now on Monday night. So we are over there having dynamic, meaningful conversations about relationships and beyond. So please make sure that you come on and join us on Monday nights as well at 7 p.m. for Dr. E and me. And we look forward to seeing you up in the place. So for those of you who are up in the silent section, we want to say good evening to you. Welcome in. Thank you for joining. Come on down to the comment section. I promise you it is safe down here. You are free to roam around. We have security, so no one is going to bother you. I promise. With that being said, I also want to give our house rules and disclaimer. Number one house rule is respect. We ask that while we are not a Christian channel, most of us that do come on and share in our conversation, we are believers. And with that being said, we respect everyone's thoughts, feelings, and opinions. This is not a religious channel. This is not religious conversation, but we are here to engage one with the other. Some of us are licensed clinicians and counselors, yes, but when we come to engage in this space, we're leaving those things to the side, and we are just talking, just having dialogue, trying to gain more understanding with each other so that we can show up in relationships better than what we were when we started. Okay. So when I ask that everyone is respectful, you are free, absolutely free to leave your thoughts, feelings, and opinions in the chat, because we do want to hear from you. This is a space of engagement. So please do feel free to share. And my personal disclaimer is I'm a God's girl, so you're always going to get a little Jesus when you get me, because that is my moral compass. But whatever yours is, please feel free to share. We are not one voice, one sound. We are not one person knows it all, but we are here to learn and grow from one another. But respect is required. And if there's disrespect shown or displayed, our lovely moderator and in the comment section, Anae, will automatically remove you, as well as you will not be able to rejoin us again. So let's just be mindful and be kind to one another, because we hate to remove anyone, but we do have to secure the integrity of our channel. So with that being said, and forgive me, I thought I turned my phone down. I guess not. With that being said, we want to thank everyone for being here on tonight. Also, if you do, while we're talking about moral compasses, if you do happen to need a little spiritual guidance, you want a little encouragement, need a little lifting of your spirit, I invite you to go across the street. I'll do this every week. It doesn't matter which way you go. It's going to take you to the same spot. You go that way or that way. It doesn't matter. You're still going to end up over there. But we invite you to go over to the Sheila Ingram Ministries Network, which is right across the street. You cannot miss it. Over there, you will find Pastor Sheila, along with the Women of Grace, who is comprised of my mom, Pastor Rosa, and my auntie Gangsta, I call her, Reverend Jenny. They are on every Friday at 11 a.m. The Women of Grace, and they are sharing an amazing walk through the word. So go on over there and get encouraged. In addition, Pastor Rosa is on at 10 a.m. on Tuesdays. And Pastor Sheila, listen, you don't know where you're going to find her. Sometimes you find her on both channels. You might find her over here. You might find her over there. She's teaching the word. She's preaching the word. She's praying for you. She's singing for you. She's imparting. She's pouring. She's just doing everything. She's counseling. She's so I'm telling you, you don't want to miss any of it. Okay. Anytime she drops a nugget, pick it up. I promise you. It will serve you in the long run. So I believe that is all of our announcements on this evening. And we are going to go ahead and jump in. We're expecting our crew. Sometimes life is happening. It's getting nicer outside. I don't know, but life is happening. But we're here tonight, and we're going to jump into this discussion. Last month, we started a topic called Checkmate. and we were having our ladies' room and our men's lounge. Now, you know, when the two get together, it is always a time to be had. So we had such a great time getting into that conversation, and we really didn't get far that we decided we were going to come back for part two. So on tonight, we want to do that. We want to start digging into this concepts of checkmate when it comes to relationships. So with me tonight so far is, you know her, you love her, and you will be seeing her more. She is an official part of our ladies room, and you know her, you love her. She's my sis and co-author in the person of Coach Theo, and we're going to bring her up on tonight. Hey sis, how are you? You on mute, beautiful.
I am muted. I am well. I am doing well. How are you? Good evening, everyone. Good evening.
I'm good. I'm good, and I'm good some more. I'm so glad you were able to pop in and join on tonight. It is okay. You know, I was ready. Listen, sometimes you got to go. If you got to go by yourself, that's an old church song. I'll go if I have to go by myself, right?
That's
So on tonight, but I'm grateful that you are here. I am happy you are in the building. And oh, before we go further, look who is in the comment section. None other than Miss Monday Night herself.
yes.
The head host of
Yes.
Mondays Mike, and the president of Dr. Elaine is in the building. She says, "Hey, my sisters. Hey, girl. Hey, how are we
Dr.
tonight?"
Elaine.
I think listen. You know what? I'm not even gonna say that. I'm having fun every night that I'm on here. I'm telling you, the team is just nuts. If you have not tuned into a Monday night, I suggest that you do. Y'all know that I have some sense. I just don't use all my sense all the time. So, that tends to show up over there on Monday nights as well. I don't know. This is just me, y'all. So it's the best that I can do right now. But good to see you, sis. So make sure that you join us on Monday nights for Monday Beyond the Mic with the head host, Dr. E, and me. We're over there having a good time and good conversations. There's a lot of don't miss moments over here on the Bravo with Sheila Network. So again, make sure you are hitting that thumbs up button and make sure that you are liking, subscribing, and sharing this great channel because you don't want to miss it at all. So on tonight, we are going to get into this great conversation. We're going to pick up kind of where we left off, but maybe not. The men not here, so we're not going to worry about them. So we're going to talk about us. That's what we're going to do. We're going to talk and we're going to chat. And I'm sorry if y'all not here to defend yourselves or to speak up on your behalf. I mean, hey, y'all know what else you want us to do. We here. So you just got to take it. So what we're talking about is checkmate. In the game of chess, there's a thing called checkmate, and that is when you get into the position where there are no more moves that can be made. The king is blocked, and it's stopping you from winning the game, right? And we know that in relationships, sometimes we put ourselves into these positions of checkmate, or we realize we end up in these stalemate positions and we're not sure how we get there. But sometimes we get there because, or oftentimes it's because we tend to, if we're honest, we can sabotage our own relationships. We put ourselves in positions where we have exhausted all the moves that we can make because we're either not making a room for new thoughts, new things. Some of us are stubborn and stuck in our ways. And so those things are blocking relationships from moving forward. And at the end of the day, we all want to win, right? We all want to win in relationships. So we want to talk about a few things that may be in the way of that, or that are in the way of that. By definition, checkmate is any game position in chess and any other chess like games in which a player's king is in a check threatened with the capture and there is no possible escape. So sometimes there are things in our relationships that we do that put us with our backs against the wall or leaves our partners with no other choice. Whether we're being unreasonable, we refuse to compromise, or we are just not willing to be open and honest. So we want to talk about some of those things that get in the way of our relationship. What do you think, Coach Theo? Let's start there.
It's funny because as you were talking, I was like, I'm not much of a chess player, But what I do know is that although the king is the most important, I think, piece on the board, the queen is the most powerful, right? Because she has the ability to move in more directions than the king,
Right.
right? And so it just made me think about how, there's something to that dynamic of the woman sometimes just having that ability to pivot, right? And to, think in a different way to kind of help their partner and move them along, all right? And it's not necessarily telling them what to do, but being able to have that ability to help guide them or think differently about some things.
That's a good thought and concept. Yeah, um, when we think about it, like, yeah, women, we do have that option or the ability to pivot more so than some of our men do. And when I think about the positions that we're in relationships, like, men are stuck to these few things, protecting, providing, and everything else is in the plate of the woman or on the hands of the woman. You got to take care of the home, the children, you got to make sure that everybody is good, make sure everything is in place. And we have to be flexible in order to do that. Moving from, we can't have just tunnel vision in how we move when it comes to responsibility, but we also cannot have just tunnel vision when it comes to how we're moving within the confines of our relationship with our mate. The king, yes, is supposed to protect the queen. And when he's backed into a corner where he cannot move or do anything, what does it do? It leaves the queen open and she is prone to, to hurt, harm, danger. But ladies, what are we doing? There's some things that sometimes we do that bind, I want to say, our king's hands. It's not always an outside job. What about, us doing the internal things that we are doing? Like, are we listening? Are we attentive? Are we combative? What kind of things are we willing to compromise? Do we know how to follow?
Are we respectful?
Oh, come on, talk about it.
Right? Like, I think a lot of times, women have to recognize our tone, right? Be mindful of our tone. Be mindful of how we approach certain situations, right? I think respect goes a long way from both sides, but I think sometimes we as women forget that we are talking to a male adult and not a child.
Say it again.
Sometimes we as women forget we are talking to a male adult and not a child, right? And I think sometimes we forget that, this is a grown man. So your tone and how you speak to him, you have to be mindful of that.
That part. Because our men are not our children and not our sons. When you talk about that respect piece, that is something that is major that blocks our relationships from moving forward. We don't want to be disrespected, but we are quick to pop off with the mouth and disrespect our men sometimes, and you're right. We have to be careful with our tone. I have to catch myself, sometimes, but I'm reformed. I keep saying that. That's my word is reformed. I'm reformed. Okay. I'm still working on some stuff, but I'm reformed. I have to be mindful because I know that I can speak very strongly, because when I feel a certain way, I want you to not misunderstand. I want you to hear me. And I think women, sometimes we come off that way because we are afraid of not being heard or not, being taken advantage of. Dr. E says, thank God for information. Right. See what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Y'all, this is the better version. Okay. It is a real thing. I'm trying to tell you, ladies, it'll help you to bless your life. Men folk, y'all need some reformation too, but I can only speak for me. We also have Michelle Roach, my sis, is in the building. She says, speak So
Good
good evening.
evening, Michelle.
But it's true. We have to be honest with ourselves. You know, how many relationships have we sabotaged because of these things? And we want them to be perfect, but we are still, it's like, take me as I am, but I want you to fix you.
Yeah, and for me, I don't know if it's so much my tone, but it's my like I've had to throughout my career learn the blank stare, right?
Mm,
But because my face will sometimes tell you what I'm thinking, right? More so than me saying it out loud. But also, I have the ability to cut people down just with my words,
oh, that part.
right? And it does, and it could be talking as calmly as this, right? And so you have to be mindful of that. You have to be mindful of the fact that words hurt, right? So
Mm,
sometimes you have to take a step back, and even though you might be thinking something and it's what you want to say, you got to think about what's going to be the impact of what I'm about to say, right? Because I think we also have to be mindful of the fact that the aim is not to, especially if this is your partner, if this is someone that you're building something with, your aim is not to hurt that person. And sometimes words hurt. And it takes a long time for people to get over what you say, right? And so I think we have to be mindful of that as well.
I completely agree. That is, we do have to be mindful of those things as we go along. I know my face, you see it. My face says something sometimes, my mouth doesn't, or my face will say it before my mouth does. So then it's twice the offense. Um, and so, yeah, we do have to be very, very mindful of how we are speaking, as well as our body language can say something, that we may not want it to say. And I know for me, it's when I have no respect for you, when I've lost
Mhm.
respect. And sometimes I've actually been in relationships with people where I'm like, I really didn't respect you to begin with, if we're
Mm.
being honest. It's like, I can, all right, okay, we good, but I don't have that man respect for you. Like, you really can't tell me what to do, and from that point, it determines how I've already set in my mind how I'm just waiting for him to, like, start to buck up and say with your chest. And that's my license to, like, cut it down. Like, bruh, let me say, what we're not going to do, and then that's when we start reading them the
Yeah.
right and tearing them down. And I have to say that was something that never made me feel good. And I
Mhm.
had to really look within myself to see, why am I treating this person this way or responding
Mhm.
to this person this way? And I found that it was, again, we have to be very introspective, but I found that it was because of my own need to be heard.
Mm.
And I didn't want to be vulnerable. I didn't want to hear what you had to say, but I wanted you to hear what I had to say.
Yeah.
So we do
Yeah.
have to mind our tones.
Yeah.
Um, and I think some of those things we learn from our environment and from our atmosphere. So while we are talking, good evening, everyone.
Mhm.
Thank you for joining us on tonight. Please hit that thumbs up button,
Mhm.
and share this out. Let's invite some people in and get up in the chat, and let's have this conversation. We are talking about Checkmate on tonight, discussing part 2, some of the things that we do in relationships that block us and keep us in the corner and stop us from winning. So one of the things that I thought about this week was, how when we're picking our partners, or when we're picking the people that we are looking to engage in relationship with, um, sometimes I've heard it said that, women, and this can be a block.
Mhm.
Women tend to look for men who are like their fathers. Men tend to look for women who are like their mothers. Um, and I kind of agree to an extent, but not 100%. And here's why. Because what I've learned is that the person that I'm married is not my father. The way my father cares for me and he loves me and he
Mhm.
governed his space in my life is totally different than the man who is my husband and how we are conducting our relationship. So when we go out looking for a man or a woman to be just like our mother or our father, we are already starting off at a deficit. I had to tell my son, do not get accustomed to how mommy loves you when you go looking in a relationship, okay? Because she ain't gonna love you like I do. It's impossible. The relationships are different, you
Yep.
know. And then we get upset. Well, my daddy don't do this, my daddy don't treat me like this. And, I don't know, maybe women, if you heard, and the man will come back to you and say, well, I ain't your father, or they want to go be with your dad or go home to your daddy, we're already setting
Mhm.
ourselves up for failure. So, do you think that we date or that we are drawn to the person that our parents are? And is that a fair way to assess someone? What are your thoughts?
I don't think it's a fair way, and I don't think we're drawn. And for me personally, because for me, my dad is like the greatest person in the world, right? Like I'm a daddy's girl, right? So I don't know that I ever would think that someone would even measure up to my dad, right? And not to say that he was perfect, but because of my relationship with my dad. But I will say that I remember having a conversation with a couple of my girlfriends when I realized that I may not have intentionally dated someone that was my dad, but I realized probably several years after my ex-husband and I were divorced that I had actually married someone that was similar to my dad, right? A good person, right? Good characteristics. They actually were the same sign, believe it or not. But it was like years later as I was thinking, and I was like, wow, I actually kind of did marry someone that was similar to my dad. It wasn't something that I set out to do, right? But I do think that
Mm-hmm.
some people do make the mistake of comparing their mate to their father, or for a man to their mother, and then expect that person to live up to those expectations. But like you said, that's a different love relationship, right? How your parents are going to love you is very different than how your partner or your mate is going to love you, right? So I do think you have to be mindful of that if you find yourself kind of slipping into that state of my father did this or my mother did that, right? I think you have to be mindful, but I think that comes up with maturity as well.
I can agree. And, I thought about it because I thought about in my marriage, in marriages, um, the person that my father was to me was way different from the man that he was to my mother.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes, and me and mom, a matter of fact, hey, mommy, she's in the building.
Mama Rosa.
Yeah, there she goes. I'm sorry. Hi, mom. Thank you for joining tonight. Y'all know I get excited when my mom shows up. I don't know, it's ridiculous. It's probably the only time you'll see me revert back to being like 7 years old is when mommy shows up. Hi, mom. Thank you for joining. We might have to scoop her up on here tonight.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but I find that because I would say it like this, because of the things that I saw occur in my parents' marriage, um, I was kind of drawn to men that did, and me and mom were just talking about this earlier. I was kind of drawn to things that my father did towards my mother,
Mm.
as opposed to a man who was like the father that he was to me.
Mm.
There are, my father was a good provider. I never had to worry. Dad took care of everything. I was daddy's girl. I'm a daddy and a mama's girl. A matter of fact, I'm just an all siblings girl. Everybody was everybody's. Everybody's really protective. But watching my dad be the man that he was conditioned me to certain types of men and shaped my mentality to say, well, if he's doing this, I need to prepare myself that this is just how men are.
Mm-hmm.
So I was finding myself kind of guarded and drawing myself to men who were doing some of the not so favorable things that he would do, and thinking that this is normal, like it's okay. This is how it's supposed to be. This is what happens. So I wouldn't get mad at you, if you did certain things. Oh, that's just men. That's just how y'all are. Y'all don't know no better. Because I saw my father do it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And I never really looked for a man to take care of me like my dad did.
Mm-hmm.
Because like you, I said, sir, I would be setting you up for a really hard failure.
Yeah.
You know, you cannot be like my dad. I need you to be like my man. But that man that my father was very different.
Mm-hmm.
You
But
know.
look at what Dr. Sanders said, right?
Yep. So just ready to go. Go ahead.
I think it's an outline of how you should be treated, respect, protection, provision, etc. Your father is the first man you fall in love with, which is so true. Right? Like he
Mm-hmm.
is. He is the first man that you fall in love with. But like you just said, right? Sometimes we could be setting somebody up because someone may not be able to protect you and provide for you the way your father did, right? But it does
Right.
set
And emotionally.
a standard, right?
Mm-hmm. I know that you look for someone who's going to protect you like your dad did, respect you like your father did, and it's not just that, but men the same thing. I have the son is about to be 23,
Mhm.
and I've told him I don't. He thinks I don't know why he thinks this, but he thinks I'm an actual superhero. Like I don't know what's wrong with him. I tell him I'm human like everybody else. He thinks there's like nothing that I can't do. Mommy, you're the greatest. You make it happen. Blah blah blah. I'm a parent. I'm like, that's what we do. But I told him, you cannot expect yourself. I never want you to go and look for a woman to take care of you the way I do. Her responsibility is different. And women, we have to make sure that we are not setting up our sons in that same way to look for, yeah, I might cook for you because I'm your mom. I might serve you your food because I'm your mother. Maybe. At this point, it rolls in reverse. But
Yeah.
look for a woman who's going to love you, not like I do, but I would say with the same type of regard, who's going to
Yeah.
accept you wholly for who you are. But don't
Mhm.
measure like expecting it to feel the same way, because it's not. It comes from a different place. And if we
Mhm.
don't teach it, we don't learn these things for ourselves and then teach it to our children. I really believe like we keep setting ourselves up for this cycle, because then you're feeling like you're in a relationship where I'm not being loved and cared for because you're looking for her to love you like your mom, and you're looking
Yeah.
for him to love you like your dad. And again,
Mhm.
now we're backing each other up into these corners, you know, so that we can't even get out of it. And it's not that we don't love each other. It's not that we don't care about each other, but you have not allowed me to show up in your space as your woman or your wife instead of
Yeah.
your, you know.
But we set an expectation, right, that people may not be able to meet, right? I actually love the fact, like I can say right now, just as you were talking, I think about the fact that um the majority of my male cousins
Mm-hmm.
can cook, right? Like my aunts made sure they knew how to take care of themselves, right? They knew how to, operate in the kitchen if need be. They, know how to wash their clothes and do laundry and just stuff that, they may have to do for themselves, right? And I think that's important too, right? Because sometimes we as females and males go into relationships expecting that the husband is thinking the wife, when I get home I expect to have a meal on the table, right, etc. But yet you home all day, right, and you want me to come home and cook, right? So I think that's important as well. For me, I actually was spoiled because my ex-husband was a chef, right? So and he worked nights, and I worked. When I walked in the house,
You was good.
right, I was good. Right? So, so I had to recondition myself when that
You
was
ain't struggle like the rest of us. You ain't have to have struggle love in the kitchen like
over, right. But then when I was back in that dating realm, right after I was no longer married, I had to condition myself. Yo, this ain't the dude that was saying you didn't need. I didn't have the entire time I was married. I never cleaned the bathroom. Right, he did that. right? He went to the lunch. He cooked. So I was like, yo, this this is not dude,
Right.
right?
This ain't that.
You gotta recondition, right?
Right.
And,
Adjust
and
accordingly. Adjust
exactly,
accordingly.
exactly. So I think sometimes also it's not even just that fact of marrying your parent, right? Or whatever. For those of us who have been in other relationships or are married to relationships, right? Where we were like, for me, I'm not gonna say everybody, like my ex-husband wasn't a bad dude, right? It's just it didn't work, right? But I left that relationship thinking, God, now I gotta clean the bathroom, right? Now I gotta go to the laundry, right? Right? I gotta do all these things, right? That I wasn't used to doing for a long time, right? And so sometimes you also have to recondition yourself after different relationships,
That's good. Yeah.
right?
I love that. The recondition. I'm writing that down. Recondition yourself because you have to now unlearn something that you learned. And I will agree. And I have a very bad habit. Like my father did not allow us to take out the garbage, like at all. Like it just wasn't something that his girls did. And I had the very same wake up call. When I had moved out and I was on my own. Everything. I'm like, we clean, we do all that, and I'm like, why is this garbage still sitting here days later? Like because I wasn't used to it, and I was like, oh snap, right? Because there's nobody. Oh, so I have to. So it's me. Like now, like you said, I had to start doing something that I wasn't used to doing. When I was married, I didn't have to do it either. Once I had my son, he know if you don't do nothing else, you're taking this garbage out here. Like I will not do it. So I'm just anybody. I'm just whomever he is, just garbage about the only thing that I just can't function right. I'm just saying.
But it's so true. Because I was talking to my, like last year, my 90, she's 97 now, but 96-year-old aunt, right? Went and she fell when she was trying to bring the garbage in. So as I'm talking to her, I'm like, Auntie, why are you even touching the garbage can? Because my cousin is there. I'm like, Auntie, if there's a man in the house,
right, we don't do that.
you shouldn't be touching the garbage can. Right?
I'll hold the bag for you while we got to. But
right? But whereas we may be used to that, not everybody is used to that.
Right.
Right. So
I think that's not bad. It's the only one thing for me. Like, I do the dishes, I sweep the floor. I'm not gonna do it. It's just, and if I have to do it, then I gotta do it. But it just was shocking to me. That was a wake up call. Like, there's no, like, you live all by your whole self. Like, if you don't take that garbage out,
take the garbage out, it's not gonna walk out by itself.
yeah, and the dumb thing is that at the time, the building I lived in, the incinerator was right next to my apartment. So what was my problem? It's just like, I'm not touching that.
It's like you just don't want to touch it. It's like, do I really have to?
And it's your garbage, and it was mine. So it's nobody else. So what was my problem? Again,
but I think it's just that mindset. It's something that you're not used to doing. So now it's like, oh, okay, this is my responsibility now because I'm here all by myself and I got to get used to it. Right. And so, yeah, I think it is interesting, right? Because also a lot of these, habits or things that people would say a man does versus a woman, we're in a whole different society now, right? And so a lot of people don't think the way we might think, right? Because it's a whole new world.
That's true. That's true. Again, reformed. We're reforming.
Yeah, we are reformed. We are reformed and reconditioned.
Just a little bit, right? Reform and recondition. I wrote that down, making sure, because I need to take notes for myself. Because I don't want to be doing stuff that's blocking me from winning in the relationship, And I would just say when it comes to this, before we move on to the next question or next thing we want to talk about, is in this thing of, daddy's girl, mama's boy, and how we transfer those expectations into our relationships. The key to it is, because like Dr. Elaine said, your dad is the first man that you fall in love with, just like your mother is the first woman that you fall in love with for the men. I think the key is while we are learning how we should be treated, like respect, protection, provision, like she said, all of those things, the key is to extract those principles and take the principle with you, not so much the execution, because it's not going to be the same. But yet you need to have those things in your life. So I hope we just opened up just some thought for some people about it. Like, consider how you are really, you say, like, you remind me of my dad. I date men who like, you remind me of my brother. Like, you look like my brother, not single, but this is not your brother. I don't know if that's good or bad, but we have to extract those principles.
Yeah.
Another thing that I wanted to bring up when we're talking about things that block us in relationships is how we engage and how we're following each other. We live in a time where, women, we are so independent and we're leading and doing all of this. And then we want to fall into our soft girl era. Men, you want to lead, but then you want her to, be independent when it's kind of convenient. I'm just saying some, not all, but it crosses the lines. It causes confusion because it's like, what are we doing? Who's doing what? And how are we doing it? But it's something that I heard that I thought was so key and so important. Well, let me backtrack. Let me not rush myself. When we have these lines that are crossed, it again presents a false expectation of how we should be engaging with one another. And then when that expectation is not met, we become frustrated and we feel that we are incompatible, where that may not be the case. Hold on one second before we move forward. Mama said, we get accustomed to the convenience of someone else doing it and don't think that one day we will be faced with the task. I had to learn to pay rent. Now that's a true story, y'all. If y'all did not hit that like and thumbs up button, do it now on this one. I promise you. I was a whole grown child in college, okay? And my mother had to learn how to pay rent well after that. They were divorced. They weren't even together. And my father was still paying rent. But again, it's the thing she had to, we have to learn how to do some things, and show up knowing how to do it, even if it's not necessary for us to execute, at least I know how, for one. So that's good, mommy. That's really good. I'm glad I saw that before I went further. But again, when we are not clear on the lines of who's doing what, who's leading where, and how we're engaging, it creates this dynamic that we think that we are incompatible when that may not be the case. We just need to understand who's leading and who's following, and when we're switching, because it may not be that way all the time. And what I heard was, and I think I put it in our group chat, that women are reciprocators, not initiators. He said, she steps after you step, and you lead and she follows. So I'm going to read it again. He said, women are reciprocators, not initiators. Now, men get on this, well, you're an independent woman, so go do your thing, and you don't need blah, blah, blah. We can be independent and still be a reciprocator. I'm a firm believer of you set the pace, I keep the flow. In the relationship, you're setting the tone. I'm expecting be the man because that's what a man does. Do you want to follow me? Do you want me to lead? Do you want me to hold you by the hand? Do you want me to help you cross the street? What are we doing? Women, we reciprocate. I find it hard sometimes and maybe it's just being old school, but I find it hard, or have found it hard sometimes to, not that I don't take the initiative, because I can, but I'm not the pursuer. I'm like, I'm not, that's not in my dynamic. It is not I will respond, but I'm not going to, be on the hunt. It's just not who I am. It's not what I do, and because of the way our society has changed so much, men are now sometimes sitting back waiting like, well, you ain't saying nothing to me, so why should I say something to you? You sitting on one end of the room, I'm on the other end of the room, and it's like, well, you're expecting, and you may feel that energy, but I don't feel like it's my place, in a sense, to come. And again, this is just me. It's not, everybody, but I'm not necessarily going to be that initiator. I will reciprocate your energy, because some men cannot handle a woman being the dominant force or coming up to you. If I walk up to like, hey, boo, how you doing? I like the way them jeans is falling, on your legs. You know what I'm saying? I like the way that hat is tilted to the side. Can I buy you a drink? What can I do for you today? Like you might smile, but you might feel like, hey, whoa, hold up, wait a minute. So I feel like it's important that men remain in that position. And again, it's just for me, as the initiator. When you step, she steps.
Mm-hmm. I mean, I think, and I'm gonna say this is also for me, but I think most women want to be pursued, right? You want someone to pursue you. You want someone to show interest. Like for me, like you said, if I see somebody that catches my eye, right, I may smile. I might, get a little twinkle in my eye, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that's just really letting them know I'm open to you approaching me, right?
Right.
Because most of my friends would say I'm unapproachable, which I don't think I am, but because I feel like, if you don't want to approach me and you're intimidated, then maybe you shouldn't be trying to approach me, right? But
Right.
I think that most women want to be pursued, right? And so, yeah, in most cases, you want to know that somebody wants you. You want to know that someone's interested in you. You're not wanting to go across the room and be like, hey, let me buy you a drink. Hey, you want to, whatever. So I kind of agree with you, but I do think in this society, yeah, we see videos where women are proposing to men.
That's crazy work to me.
Like crazy, right? like you're like, I'm like, okay.
With a ring and all and on your knee. Girl, if you
this is crazy.
Get all the way up, ma'am.
Yeah, right. And so, and then her friends are behind her, like, yeah, I'm like, really, right? But I just think it depends. Nowadays, I would say it depends on the person. But I would say I think most people in our age bracket, we like to be pursued, right? We are more traditionalist than other people. I will say that, yeah, I will let somebody know I'm interested, but it's gonna be my vibe. Like you're gonna feel it. Like if I'm not interested, you're gonna know, right? But I tend to agree, but as far as who leads, right, and who's the one that's taking initiative, for me, because I have always been in positions where I have been in high level roles and a leader and whatever. It does. I had to be very careful at some point in my life, because sometimes I would dim it, right?
Yeah.
Because people were intimidated by the fact that I made a nice salary, right? And in the end of the day, listen, I'm not that woman that's like, yo, I'm trying to be independent. I don't mind if you take care of me. Right? I have the ability to take care of myself. Listen,
it's okay.
I'm open to you taking care of me.
Far be it from me to stop you from taking care of me.
Yeah, right? But some men will think that, oh my God, she's in this position and she don't need. No, dude, I'm not that independent. I'm not that girl. Yeah, I'm capable of taking care of myself, but that doesn't mean that I don't want you to be a man. Right? But yeah. Exactly. We are not.
My mother is ridiculous. She's ridiculous.
Yeah, but we are not, because listen, those videos really.
Mommy, you're a mess. She said, nope, not deposing.
No. And they be on.
Did you see?
Be on their knees. They be on their knees. They have flowers with them and everything. Like, it's crazy. And a lot of times I'd be like, I hope this
was. She sent me this video of this older woman. I mean, older woman in the car talking about he deposed me, not proposed to me. He deposed. That's she's like, he deposed me. I said, what? happening in this world. It's going on. That none of us are deposing. We're not deposing to no man, and should not depose to a woman either. If you like to propose, do that, but no deposing. Um,
Nope.
Again, I think that it comes it's the point of everyone knowing their role and how you like to engage.
Mhm.
How did you? And I mean, if you like it, if you love it, I like it for you.
I love
Again, it's not one voice, one sound. It's everyone to them. To what works for you, whatever your moral compass is. But sometimes when we are not knowing how to pivot, since that seems to be our word for this year, we are creating the confusion that lends to everyone having, we're not on the same page anymore.
it.
I don't know how to approach you. Do
Mhm.
you want to lead? You don't want to lead. Are you so independent that you can't be led? Because being independent doesn't mean that you don't need a leader.
Exactly.
It
But
just means
also,
self-sufficient.
but I also think people have to understand too is right, who's leading me, right?
That part.
Because you know what I'm saying. Like I don't mind. It's like the whole submission thing, right? Right.
Mm-hmm.
Women don't want to submit, right? I don't mind submitting or being led by someone, but if you don't have a clue and you're gonna lead me off a cliff, I'm
Yeah,
not following you,
you're
right?
going to self. Yeah.
Right.
It'll be-
So I think it comes down to that too, male or female, right? Because not every woman that a guy might be with is someone that they may want to follow, right? So it all depends on the person, right? Their mindset. Their like you talked about it in the last show we had, right? When we talked about the potential,
Mhm.
right?
Oh, yeah, that part.
Right. So it comes down to that. Like, yeah, I'm not gonna be led by just anybody.
Your untapped potential is just a dream, and we don't need. And it's no disrespect, but but I don't need a dreamer if I am constantly grinding and moving to manifest those things, to have product, to have something produced um from what I have put out. Then I can't. Your potential is not doing me any good because I got potential. All right, I'm gonna say it again. I got the potential to be a size 6, but it ain't gonna happen. You know what I'm saying? So it's gonna be this 5'5", size 24. But do I have the potential? Of course, we all do.
But
But
like Taryn is saying, right? You can't be behind a parked car.
right, say, hey sis, that's right. You can't. Well, you can be, but you ain't gonna go nowhere.
Yeah, you're gonna be sitting there. How long you gonna be sitting behind a parked car? At some point, you're gonna be like, okay, let me turn this wheel and go around, right? So I think the reality is that there are so many scenarios and different um, factors that play into the roles,
Mm-hmm.
right? Which is why you can't say there's a clear definition.
Right. There's no one size fits all.
Exactly. Right? Because it depends on the individuals, it depends on their mindset, it depends on where they're at, right? I always think about the fact that, like you said, with potential, and not to say, like you said, any disrespect, right? But if I'm here and you're here, we might still be moving. But if I'm moving at this rate and you're moving at this rate, we're never probably gonna meet, right, at some point. And not that we always have to be at the same pace, but we do have to be moving somewhere in sync,
Yep.
because otherwise there's gonna become a time where there's gonna be a disconnect.
Yeah. Yeah, because there has to be some. Mom is ridiculous. She said, but don't give up potentializing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can't hear today. She also said, I think some of us are initiators. We just wait to speak so as not to offend him. We see things before the man sometimes. We just wait out of respect that he is the man. And that's true. And I'm not saying that all the internet, that's true. That's knowing how to pick your spot. I think that's knowing, having the wisdom, because one thing I learned, we went on a marriage retreat once, and the thing that I walked away with above it, well, two things that I walked away with that I will never forget, regardless, is um, does this need to be said, and do I need to say it now? So that speaks to the timing, like mom is talking about. And number two is never stop dating. you know, always keep dating, no matter what your status is. Continue to date, because these are things that when we stop doing that pursuit, that showing up for each other, it creates that block and puts us into a corner that we are so far from each other that it is hard or impossible to get back to. Because when we are drifting away, we are becoming different people. The longer that you don't speak to me, the easier it becomes for me not to speak to you. The longer you don't communicate or we don't communicate, the easier it is for us to not communicate. And that creates a lot of distance because we lose our connection. It's like when you're continuing to add logs and coals to the fire. Do you want it to be, raging where it's at a consistent flow, or are you happy with it being at a real low simmer and, just potentially going out? These are the things that we have to think of. And I think that it leads us into actually the next thing that I was going to talk about, like you were saying, if you're here and I'm here, and we could both be moving, but like you said, how do we get, because I don't want you to just catch up to me, because catching up to me is not the goal. It's for us to build together, but we get further than that, and I believe that speaks to what I called our relationship momentum. Where are we going when we're talking about who's initiating and who's reciprocating? He says she steps after you step. I don't mind stepping after you step. I'm actually waiting for you to step so I can step. Even if you step wrong, but at least make a move so that I can say, babe, that maybe like don't okay, I see where you're at, but now you know what? Step to the left. This is how we fulfill that role of biblically being a helpmate. Like it's okay if you stepped wrong, but okay, let's fix it. Let me do my job, but you have to step first so I can step after you. I'm going to lead where you follow me, but that does not mean that I'm not going to help give direction on how we can get there and get there safely. When we're not moving, and like you said, when we're at this, I believe that it speaks to, is it stagnation? We become stagnant because you're still here and I'm still here. The gap has never closed between us. So we're still, even though we're both climbing, that amount of distance between us still leaves us with no connection, that gap for other things to come in. What about when there's slow movement? Like, how slow are we going to go in this relationship? Like, what are we doing? I don't think that I think when things are moving too slowly, and not that you meet somebody today and in 2 weeks you're engaged, but when a person has to ask, what are we doing? I think that I really feel, for me, like that's the problem. I don't ever want to have to ask, because if I get to the point where I'm asking you, like, what are we doing? Then that to me has already said, I've already gone through my uncertain space. I'm no longer uncertain. In my mind, I've already made a determination, like, oh, okay, I see, this is not moving along in its, we're not progressing as we should. Mommy says, absolutely. I love being courted. And you should. You are worthy of courting, Mom. I'm not going to date you myself, but, I'll take you out. But you're cute with your stuff. I feel like you have to, where's the evolution in the relationship? We got to pick a pace.
Yeah.
are we actively seeking to move forward, or what are we doing? Dr. E says, I think this happens because many women select men who they know. Oh, Jesus, see, she's speaking to my
Oh,
reformation.
listen, see, look, ouch, 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 right? She's
For
stepping
my
on
own.
some, stepping on toes.
I think I said this on Monday night. No, where did I say it? No, it was on another platform I was on. Yeah, I did. I sure did. I said it. Okay, Dr. E, you ain't right for this. You're not wrong, but you're not right for this. Lord Jesus, help me. Okay, where we go. See, I had to. She said, I think this happens because many women select men who they know are not on their level or have the potential. We know when someone lacks motivation, but we hold on for comfort.
Yep. Just breathe. Just breathe.
I
Just
love
breathe.
her, but I was about to be like, if you don't mind your whole business right now, right?
Listen, just breathe. But
It's
remember,
reformation.
but we are reformed.
Right. See, but it just struck a nerve. It shook, just took
Yeah,
me back for
yeah,
a
because
second.
yeah, exactly. Yeah, yeah. Because it's like you have a flashback, right? You remember when, but remember
I think the same
that's who
spot,
we were.
sis.
That's not who we are.
Right. That's what we did. That's what we did. Because I did. I said that. I said it. As a matter of fact, I was on TikTok live, and I was saying, there's a point in my life. I said, well, I intentionally dated down, and he was like, "What?" He said, "You did?" I said, "Yeah." I said, "I did. I intentionally dated down because I didn't want to be challenged. I intentionally dated down because I didn't have to respect anything that you said because you could not outdo
Mm,
me at anything that you did. So you had no up. There was no challenge." The Dr. E, you just like you didn't have to hit below the belt right there. Just saying, we on the same side, birthday twin. We on the same
or
side.
some of us want to be fixers,
Now I'm gonna have to tell you to watch your voice too. Just be
right?
saying,
Like some of us want to fix them,
I
right? We
feel,
want to help them,
I feel
and
like
I'm saying this from experience, right? Because I'm the chick, I'm in HR. I'm gonna redo your resume for you, right? I'm gonna help you look for the job, right? All of that, right? That's why I'm saying we are reformed, right? Because we've all been there. I think anybody that's listening can attest to there's a period in their life when they dated potential, right? Or they dated someone that was the fix me up person, and then you mad when they move on to the next person, and you're like, yo, I fixed them for you.
listen, I thought that was my calling. I thought that that's what God. I was like, oh, okay, so I'm okay, Lord. So I'm just supposed to fix him and send him back out. That's what we. I'm
Let
the,
me tell you, I'll never forget.
I'm the person who refurbishes things. Is that what we do?
Exactly. I'll never forget after one of the breakups, right, that I had and I don't know, dudes always would break up with me, like, you know what, oh, it's not you, you're too good for me, like this always, you're the best thing that ever, whatever, whatever. And I'll never forget my cousin, who's like my brother, said to me, he was like, listen, cuz, I know you do not think you are better than anybody. He was like, but you cannot just date anyone. He said, when you decide you want to do something, you do it. He was like, when you make up your mind, you're moving. He was like, you have to date someone that is comfortable in their skin. He said, I'm not saying they need to drive a luxury vehicle, but they got to have their own car. I'm not saying they need to have a house, but they need to have their own home. He said, I'm not saying they got to be making X amount of money, but they got to be comfortable in the job that they are in. He was like, you cannot date someone that is not comfortable in their own skin, because they are going to be like, yo, she's like, shh, and it's going to become too much, right? And I'll never forget, it still took me a couple of dudes after that to get it. But I'll never forget, like when he said that to me, he was like, yo, I know you don't think you better than anybody else, but you just can't date anybody.
Right. It's not for you.
He
It's
was
not.
like, it's not for you.
I think we're the same. I'm the very same. Like, and although you try, my thing was, oh, I can, I could save them. All they need is, some encouragement. All they need to be, no, it's like, go sit down somewhere. He needs to be doing it on his own. He needs to, here you go, trying to bring home all the ingredients of the cake to make it, instead of letting the baker do it on his own. So I get it. I really was the same way. Reformation is good. Reformation is good.
Yeah.
She also says, and I can agree with this now. I really know she's my mother now. She said, I can't do that deliberately though. I would get bored and I would be gone.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what happens actually. And this is not, and again, men, this is for both sexes, but we're women. We've only dated men. So this is the angle from which we're talking, and the men, unfortunately, again, I said that they're not here right now. So can't help them. Can't speak for them. This is where we at. Checkmate. What can I tell you? We're talking about the things that happen that block us in relationships, some that we inflict that cause us not to win. The things that we do or things that occur, things we partake in that put us in a corner and leave us with no other way out.
But thinking about this statement, right, that Mama Rosa just said, it's so true. Because it's as simple as, I don't want to be the person that's always planning a date. Right? Oh, I want to go see this play. I want to do this. What do you think? Oh, just get the tickets and I'll give you them. No, I want you to plan a date. I want you to be like, yo, I got tickets for this and we're going to go here. Right? Because at some point you're like, come on now. It's as simple as that. Right?
Mm-hmm.
When it comes to like being the initiator.
That's what we were talking about, the reciprocation, and a lot of times we do that thinking that, okay, if I start this, oh Lord, here she goes. Here she goes. Jesus saves.
You know what? And I started to wear my church swag.
Okay, see, next week we're gonna have to do. It's gonna have to be like T-shirt week or something. We gonna have to do a T-shirt week. So you put your shirt, your church swag on. I'm gonna wear my Team Grateful gear. We gonna put it up. All right. We want y'all out there in the Bravo Nation. Y'all put your T-shirts on next week too. Jesus said, yeah, he does, and I had to let him keep saving. I had to learn to stop trying to save them, because if you're not motivated within yourself, there's nothing that I can do.
Exactly.
I cannot encourage.
And the more you try to motivate and encourage them, sometimes the greater the distance. Because at some point, they may start to resent, right? Because now they think you're trying to make them be somebody or whatever. And so it just begins to just become too much.
I realized I can't encourage what you don't motivate.
And what you don't see for yourself, right?
Right.
You gotta have a vision for your life. You gotta have a vision for what you wanna do. I could help you by being, like you said, that help me. I could help you by us encouraging one another, right? That's what the partnership is, right? You got a dream, I got a dream, you got goals, I got goals, we both working towards them, we're both being sounding board for each other, we're both talking to each other, we're growing together. We have individual goals, but we have goals that we are trying to meet together, right? And so there's always that synergy,
right?
But like you said, I can't motivate you to be somebody that you haven't motivated yourself to be.
Right. Give me something to encourage you in.
Yeah.
You will always be seen as a threat. Exactly. And I'm at this point, like, the reality is I'm not willing to shrink down or not. I'm not even, no, thank you. Let me fix my language. Let me just keep it 1000%. It's not even that I'm not willing to. I will not. I cannot, and I refuse to. And it just ain't gonna happen. Dim my light or shrink down for anybody or anything. I am so happy on my road to being everything that I was made to be, whether you like it or not, whether I cannot help to, if you're not cheering for me instead of being in your feelings about me, then you are not for me and I'm not for you, because in this space, I don't need you to view me as a threat. I don't, it is not as flattering as men may think when we hear the comments that, you're intimidating, or they're intimidated to talk to you. I didn't know how to approach it. I'm a person just like everybody else.
Yep.
So, depending on the space that you see me in, are you threatened or feel uncomfortable because of how I show up in these particular spaces? Like seeing us here tonight on this, on this platform, men could become intimidated by the fact that we're here, we're open, we're having this conversation. Please understand, the core of who I am is the same, but in a relationship, when I'm with you, I'm going to be just as open and just as honest, but I present differently, because it's a personal connection. It's one-on-one. We're talking open and generally, and you need to be able to embrace that. Like, you should not be bothered by it, because I don't want my biggest cheerleader to actually be my biggest villain as well.
I mean, and for me, honestly, I would say, because I have been that girl that dimmed her light, right? I have been that girl that was so focused on being in, a relationship that I forgot myself. I put myself last, right? That after doing the work, after choosing to heal, after moving forward, like, yo, I am a different person. Like, honestly, I'm not a different person as far as my heart and who I am, Theodora, the person. I am that same person, but I am not the same chick that's just going to take whatever.
Right.
I am not the same chick that's going to dim my light to make you shine brighter. Right. That's not me. And honestly, approaching 59, Monday I will be 59 years old.
Come on, birthday.
There is no way that I am not gonna be, like, I'm living my best life right now. Like, I started this journey, I would say probably end of 2019, 2020, right? Yeah, I was like, you know what? I am going to do the best to create the life that I want to live.
Exactly.
Right. And so that's what I'm doing right about now. And so, listen,
I feel like when you don't show up as your whole self, you are, first of all, you're representing falsely.
Yeah.
I'm giving you my representative, and then all of a sudden, when the real me shows up and you become dissatisfied, when the real me shows up, I'm more than you can handle, because you're like, whoa, wait a minute, you wasn't. And this is when people start thinking, oh, you changing. Oh, you didn't come out the box. No, this was always me at the starter level.
Yeah.
But I had to bring it down.
But I think so many of us, right? We say we're authentic. Thank you. We say we're authentic, right? And we're living our authentic life, but we're wearing a mask, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I'm speaking for myself, so I'm not putting this on anybody else, but I do think this applies to a lot of women, right? So that when we do the work and we do start figuring out, like, who am I? Like, when I was like, you know what? Who are you, Theodora? Not Theodora, the CHRO. Not Theodora, the executive. Not Theodora, the daughter, the sister, the cousin, or whatever. But who are you at your core? Not who everybody else wants you to be. Right. Not who everybody else sees you as, right? Because that's how you've been showing up. But who are you? Because once you really begin to figure out your identity and you begin to move in it, yes, people probably think I'm a different person now, but really and truly, I was containing a big part of me.
Mm-hmm. Holding back,
right? Being who everybody thought I was or who I should be, and trying to mask certain things, that now where I'm like, this is me, right? I'm not a different person, but now you just seeing all of me, right? And there's freedom in that.
Yeah, there is. And I think that, well, I just put it this way. be as big as you are and live out loud.
Yeah.
Because truthfully, the person that is looking for you, or the person that you are meant to partner with, they're looking for that version of you. And because we have diminished ourselves, and this is men and women, you know, we missed each other like two ships in, because the version of you that you are showing up as is not the version that I'm looking for. Like I need to see that. You know, you may think that you're too much who, you know, for one person, but again, the person who is really going to be in partnership with you is looking for that big you, is looking for you living out loud in all of the colors in the crayon box, you know. And like you said, it is so freeing when you can be every bit of you. I don't want to have to diminish myself any longer. I can't, I will not, I'm not going to do it, you know, because I need to be satisfied with me. I need to be happy with Dawn. At the end of the day, you know, Dawn has to be fulfilled. And when we show up as less than that, we are just prolonging our dissatisfaction. Um,
Exactly.
Dr. E says a help meet is to help him meet his vision, but but of but if he cannot see, you two are in trouble. But if he cannot see you two,
Yeah.
watch your voice, ma'am. Yeah, help me is, you know, we're here to help him with his again. Give me, show me what you're motivated about, so I can encourage you in your motivation. If you don't show me what you're motivated about, or even moving in what you're motivated about, there's nothing for me to encourage you in. And then I feel, you know, for me, I feel like my hands are tied. I feel like
Yeah.
I'm not useful because I can't fulfill the role that I was, you know, sent here to fulfill.
Yeah.
Dr. E says you will always be too much for the wrong person, ma'am.
Oh my
Yes, ma'am.
God. Yes.
I need that on a t-shirt, and the hat and the mug, and on the post-it notes, all of that. You will always be too much for the wrong person. And I just believe we really have to show up as who we are, because again, when you don't, it sets the wrong things in motion. It gives the wrong expectation in the relationship. And then you back yourself again into that relationship corner, that like, how did I get here and how am I going to get out now? Because now I've played this role for so long that I'm this, that me coming out and being, who knew you were dissatisfied all these years?
And,
Because
yep. And it's
you,
so, let me tell you something, a story, right? So I dated this dude, and we dated for like almost 2, 3 years, right? And when he finally was like, "Oh, you know, you're the best person ever. You're like no woman I ever dated before, right? But you're not a girly girl." So I was like, "What's a girly girl?" Right? So I'm asking all my male friends, "What's a girly girl?" They're like, "B, that's BS, right?" Like that. But come to find out, right? When I asked him like, "What's a girly girl?" He was like, "It was like one of my friends who like she don't leave the house without makeup. If she going to the store, she got on heels or whatever, right?" And I was like, "Well, it took you almost 3 years to figure I wasn't a girly girl." Because let me tell you something, I could dress up, but I'm quite comfortable in a hoodie and
come
some jeans and
on,
some
like,
sneakers, right?
on my Converse, on my Nikes,
Yeah.
on
But
my,
then I realized that for a lot of the part of the relationship when we first started out, I was that girl that was trying to measure up to what I kind of figured he liked, which was always having on heels, always having, being dressed up and whatever. So at the point where I began to start really like just throwing on my sneakers or whatever, I guess he was like, "Yo, who is this chick?" Right? Because yeah, I can be a girly girl, but that's not me. I'm not the girl that's gonna always be in some high heels and makeup and all of that, right? And so it is very important that you show your true self and not try to be a representative or to represent what you think the person wants, right?
right.
Because at first I was like, "Yo, did this guy just break?" And then all my friends, they were mad, right? And but after a while I was like, "Yo, you know what? I played, like, as I began to heal and do all my journey and started looking back, I was like, I played a part in that, right?" Because I let him believe that, I was comfortable in being in these little boots, these shoes, and these heels all the time. When quite actually, on any given day, give me a hoodie and my Converse and some jeans, and I'm straight. Right?
What?
Because I still look good in that too.
Stay
right? But I think we do also have to be mindful of how we start out and show up in a relationship, right? It's like the person that meets somebody and every time, you're around them, you don't put on your bonnet, right? You don't take off your makeup, right? But then the relationship starts progressing and then you start taking off your wig and whatever. And now they're like, right?
Like, oh, who this woman?
So I think it's very important for us to show up as who we are.
Mm-hmm. Dr. E said earlier, we must understand how we start is how we finish.
Yeah.
That's right. You start like, so if you don't want, like, I need for you to see me for who I am. We need to see each other in all seasons. Yeah, I like getting dressed up, but like you said, at the same time, you give me some sneakers, some jeans, and throw some leggings, and listen, I got 9,000 hoodies. Okay, yeah. I've got one for every day of the week, and exactly. I don't even have to wear the same one twice within a month. Exactly. And we can do that. She's still gonna be cute though. She's still gonna be cute. She's gonna be clinging, but and that's just what it is. But at the same time, we can't be too much of one thing and not enough of another. I think we have to find that.
There has to be balance.
Right. And no, I'm not going to. The only time you're gonna find me in some heels in a supermarket. All dressed up is on a Sunday after church. That's about it. I'm not, sometimes when you want to get dressed up to go out because you feel like today I want to get, like, sometimes lately I felt like, okay, I've been like hoodieing and t-shirting it for a little bit too long. Like I gotta, when I go into the office, I'm like, my clothes is calling now. I got to pull out my dress. You know what I'm saying? I gotta look like a human being again.
But that's like me. I work from home most of the time, right? So for me, it's like, I'm gonna go out. I'm gonna dress up, right? Because most of the time I'm here in leggings, a short, and a shirt just to be on a Zoom call, right? And so but I think it's very important that like Dr. Elaine said, right? For the right person, who you are in every season is gonna be okay. Right?
Mm-hmm.
For the right person. Absolutely. Because that's another thing. Depending on what's going on in life, depending on what season it is, you may show up differently. I'm not always the happy-go-lucky, rah-rah girl, right? There are times that I'm like, I'm tired.
Not even so much you will show up differently. You will, depending on the circumstances, you absolutely will. And I think in those cases, male and female, we have to give each other that space to be whatever that situation or that season calls for, instead of coming back with the comment, oh, I didn't know you was like that. Oh, I didn't know that. Oh, I didn't see that side of you. What did you think? Now, this one moment or season that you're seeing me in, now all of a sudden it takes away all the other 3 seasons that you've seen me in that were amazing. And this one season of hardship or hard time or whatever it is the one that's the deal breaker. We quit sometimes too soon, and we have to see each other in all of our seasons so that you can know, am I graced for you? Are you graced for me? Can you handle when I'm moody? Can you handle when I have an attitude or when I'm angry? Can you handle when I'm upset and I'm frustrated? Or are you only built for, my sunshine and rainbow days? And if you are, then again, that doesn't allow me to be who I am at all times. Mommy says people just need to grow up and stop it already. It ain't all about you.
Yeah, but it's true. I think that it's like I'm reading this book with some young ladies now. It's called Boundaries in Dating, right? And we also have heard people say this, right? But that's why it's important to date, right? People and to get to know people, because you have to know how people show up in different situations, right? When there's a hard time, when things don't go their way, when how do they experience grief? How do they experience joy, right? How do they experience heartbreak or situation? How do they even, you know, deal with a disagreement,
Right. How do
right?
you handle loss and disappointment?
Right? So you do it is important to see people in different seasons, right? To know how they deal and handle certain things. Because if not, you end up in this relationship and you're never gonna know completely how someone is, right? Because we're always growing and we're always getting to know someone, and you're gonna always find out something new about somebody. But when you enter a relationship and you jump right in, and you don't know how people manage, you know, disappointment or manage when they're upset or angry, right?
Mm-hmm.
You're gonna be caught off guard, right? If you have someone that when they get angry, they're real explosive, and you're not that type of person, you're gonna be like, oh my God, right? So you need to know how people handle themselves in various situations. And they
Right.
need to know how you handle yourself in various situations.
Right. How do we resolve conflict? How do we, I don't want to, just because we have a conflict doesn't mean that, we have to depart from each other or that we are not compatible. It means we're having a moment that we work through it by walking through it,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
and we have to, again, I think we put ourselves in that checkmate position when we don't allow us to have those moments. I may not like it. And a lot of us it's an uncomfortable space to be in when your partner, is in one of those unpopular spaces, in one of those heated, fellowship moments. It's uncomfortable, yes, but you can recover. We have to learn how to recover,
Yeah.
instead of retreating, because
Yeah.
that's what happens a lot of times. You got to think about, am I worth the work? Are we worth the work?
Work.
I don't know about y'all, but at this big age, it's like I'm pretty much tired of quitting. So
Yeah.
I just don't even start. I don't even like if all the things don't line up, and it doesn't mean that they're perfect, but if it doesn't line up in the beginning, I'm not even engaging. Like look, we wouldn't even be having this level of a conversation if I didn't feel like you were someone that I'm graced for and that you're graced for me.
Yeah.
We're just not doing that not at this point, because we got more time behind us than we do ahead of us.
Yeah. But
So I
yeah.
don't
And,
I have
and
no more
and
space.
absolutely get to know the person. Stop coming to the table with all these demands before you even know who is at the table with you. Right. And I don't know if you remember when we wrote the book, right? Loving You is Hurting Me, right? And I
Mhm.
remember we were being like, we had the virtual, and I remember being asked the question, right? About my list, right? Because remember in the book I had this 15-point checklist, right? and and
It's
after that, and
all
after that, right? I literally thought about it, right? Like, you know, I was
is
like,
the
oh, he checked all these boxes on his list. I thought he was the one, right? But in all reality, no, no, get rid of the list.
this. I don't even have one. I don't
I
even have.
know. But I just remember, I can't remember who asked the question, but I remember so vividly that virtual where it was like, so tell us about this 15
That was
point
Pastor Sheila who actually.
checklist that you had. And I was like, obviously, it didn't work out too well for me, right?
Oh,
So since then, I don't have the list. But I just say that to say that, we go into these relationships thinking that this person checks off all of these boxes on this list, but there's so much more to getting to know someone, right? And like Mama Rosa said, right? Absolutely, not coming in with demands and expectations or what you think they boxes they check on the list, and
mhm,
also just recognizing, like you said, right? Is this relationship, is this person, right? Is this thing we're building worth working at it, right? And data, and yep, dating is getting data, right? So that's why you don't need the list, because you're gonna date and you're gonna gather information.
So even with the dating is data, and that's how I date. You get to know someone and you get the data, and if they check all the boxes, that's wonderful. The problem is when our expectation of how those checked boxes plays out, what it really looks like in real time. And that's when we get confused, because then we're like, hold up, but he checked all the boxes and everything was fine. That was on paper, love, but in real life, in the reality, like, it looks a heck of a lot different, him walking it out and you walking it out with him. You can control what you put on that paper, but you are totally out of control and can only respond to what is happening in real life when it's being executed. And so these are our things. Listen, I can't even mess with the list. I'm like, because my list changes depending on the person. I don't really, I don't even want to talk about the table. I'm like, why do we even have a table? Why is there a table? Does it matter? What we bringing to the table? Because what's on the table is not necessarily what we're leaving with. It's what we're working with. But again, when it's time to execute those things, you can put all the ingredients again. And I just use practical principles, y'all. You can put all of the ingredients that is needed to bake a cake on the table.
Yep.
It's still not a cake. You still got to put in the work and the right measurements, and you got to taste it as you go along. Like, okay, is this the flavor that I want? And you still got to, you have to create. You have to actually execute. So it's different,
And if you change the recipe, it might turn out different, right? And I also remember, right, having a conversation in the parking lot of Target, right, with Dr. Elaine. Back in, this is before we were caught in Target. This was years ago, back in when I was still in New Jersey, right? And talking about realizing that I never really dated, because I would meet somebody, we would talk for a little bit, and next thing you know, we were in a relationship, right? And I just remember her then talking to me about, dating and how it really is important to date. Even if you decide it's just going to be one person, you still need to date. You need to get to know that person.
Yeah, because brother, I don't know you. I really don't. I'm not.
And they got to get to know you, because listen, I'm not. I have some little ways about me, right? Like, I am the person, I will honestly say I'm working on it. I will try and try and try, but when I'm done, I'm done. Right? So,
yes, ma'am.
Unfortunately, I'll have a whole funeral and everything in my head, like you just cease to exist, right? And so I've had to work on that, right? And it's for some people, you need to be in that category, but not everybody probably needs to fall in that category, right? So yeah, I mean, but I do like, that is one of the biggest lessons I learned through my healing journey, right? Like, I literally had to make a choice to heal, right? Like, I literally
always
had to be like, one day I just heard the Holy Spirit saying, you know what, you could stay in this sunken place, or you could heal.
Yeah, you got to decide to get up.
And I was like, you know what? But I want to heal responsibly, right? I want to heal. I want to really heal. I want to really do the work. I want it to be about me and not what happened to me, right? And during that journey, it was hard. Let me tell you something. It's not easy. It's not easy, because when you begin to really look in the mirror and look at yourself, and you be like, oh, all right, maybe this was me, right? But at the end of it, you learn about yourself, you grow, right? And hopefully, as you move forward, you make better decisions.
Right. Hopefully. The thing is, we did a podcast not too long ago at the beginning of the spring. It might have been the beginning of this month. Was saying, don't go back to what broke you. And that's how you learn from it. And if I could tell you the number of things and people that have randomly popped up in my life recently, I'm like, what in the world? It's like I have some kind of magnet of some sort right now. And I've been saying, what's wild is cuffing season. It starts in September. For me, it apparently starts in April. Random people that would talk to, and it would be one thing if it's just one person, because you run across people's mind. It is, it has been about literally like 5 people, and I'm like, what is going on? Am I giving off some kind of scent, some signal or something? And I had to remind myself, it's like reconnecting is wonderful and it's beautiful, because sometimes we can relearn each other, and you go back over old times and whatever connected you. However, you can't go back to what broke you. Like you said, once you're on your healing journey, because I'm not the same person that I was where we left off. So you have to get to know me now for who I am. That's one of the beautiful things. And you can't rest in the fact that who I was or how close we were or whatever that was when we knew each other back then, because the healing that has taken place has caused evolution. Here she goes, this lady right here.
But the other side of it too, sis, is it that they see that you are not who you used to be, and some people want to come back to remind you of who you used to be and try to take you back there.
And that's true. And I would say, it's like maybe 50-50 in this case. Like some people, some I just haven't seen. We haven't been in touch, so just like no one knows what's going on, Some people, yeah. I don't know.
I want to know why the rolling eyes. I want to know why the rolling eyes.
I don't know, because I had to ask, because I asked mommy earlier today. We had a whole conversation. I was like, I don't know what's going on. I don't know what's going on. It's like every day somebody else is popping up. Like, what is happening? And I'm just like, well, God, why? But sometimes we have to remember.
Yes.
Like I said, date them all and may the best man win.
Listen.
You heard it here first on Thursday night. Ladies, gonna be date them all, sis. May the best man win. Listen, I'm not mad at that. But you also have to think of why are you what caused separation and what caused breaches, what caused distance, to begin with. Why are we not together? Why, whether it's a friendship, relationship, any of that. And I mean just random people, I'm like, what is happening? But you have to be mindful, like you're saying, as you've healed, don't undo the work of your stitches. Now that you've healed, don't reopen the wound. For me, in a sense, it's like, if you could not handle me before I was this that I am now, what makes you think you can handle me now? What have you, how prepared are you to handle me now? And vice versa. Because I've changed, I've evolved, you've changed, you've evolved. And so how do I know that I am in the same place? Like, I don't have the same tolerance that I once had. For certain things. I don't have the same patience. I don't have the same grace. And you might have those graces, and you may still need that. And I may not be able to give that to you. Doesn't make us bad people. It doesn't make us, that we have to be angry or bitter. It just means that we really have to assess, where we are, our compatibility in our, our space. When it comes to these things, and you have to be really real, but keep your healing, whatever it is that you've done, to heal, you have to keep that. You fought too hard to get it.
Yeah. And we're always healing, right? And so that's why you have to keep it, because there's always going to be something you're healing from, right? Because like we said, there's different seasons, there's different things that are going to happen, right? And so, the beauty of it is when you go on that journey of choosing to heal, right? You pick up some tools that help you, right? So now I can look at things, right, and deal with it differently, right? But I also still see a therapist, right? As preventative care. So just preventative care. So just like I take care of going to the dentist every 6 months or going to the eye doctor every year, right? Or to get my annual physical, I also do the same for my mental. And so for me, I meet with a therapist monthly. And sometimes it's just for us to chat. There's nothing going on. But then there's some months where, I'm processing a lot of stuff and she helps me get through that. And so, and that's because one, I also know that and I'm not going to use the clinical term for it, but I struggle with functional depression.
Okay.
Right. And so that's another reason why I make sure I have regular conversations on a monthly basis, just to keep myself together and just in the right mental space and my mindset cool. And I practice gratitude. Anybody that knows me knows I'm cool, and every day I'm getting up. Gratitude keeps me grounded, right? But I say that to say that, this healing thing is not a one and done thing.
No, it's not. It is it is a process, and it is a journey, and you have to be committed to it all the way. And I think also when we are in the midst of healing, you have to not quit. Don't revert back because it gets painful. Because healing hurts, and that's actually the name or a chapter in a book that I started writing. Is that healing hurts. It's going that there's some pain associated with it. That's why we have physical therapy, and we need to have therapy is emotional therapy. And there's some things that's going to hurt, along the way. I want to read this comment as I am bringing up. I see my other sis just came into the building. She's been here before. She will be here again, but she is here tonight in the person of Coach Nick, the Overcomer. I'm so glad she made it into the building. Evening. Welcome in, sis.
Hey, twin. Hello, everybody.
How beautiful. How are you tonight?
I'm getting better.
Okay.
Apologize for not being on camera. I just slid out of a meeting, so I'm working in the background. I'm here. I hope it's okay that I'm not on camera.
You are perfectly fine. Listen, I just be so glad that you're in the building. I don't even care. It don't even matter. We love your beautiful face, but we your voice is what matters. So you just the fact that you took the time to come on tonight, even for these few moments, I appreciate it. I really do. I love it. That's my twin, y'all. I want to read this comment from Mom, and then I'm just going to recap a little bit because while Coach Nick is here, I want to grab her thoughts and share with her, catch her up on what we've been discussing tonight. Mom says one person began with a conversation that ended about 7 years ago. Who remembers a conversation from yesterday, less more 7 years ago? Well, I mean, I think we remember certain things in different spaces of time, but I get your point. People pick up where they left off, and I believe that we become emotionally bookmarked in spaces when a person continues to refer back to a particular place in time on a consistent basis. That's what I call being bookmarked. Just like you stick a bookmark inside the book so you don't lose your page and remember where you're at, and you don't go any further until you go in and remove that bookmark and then start picking up where you left off. You're gonna stay stuck. So something happened at that marker. You can't stay stuck in that though. You can't stay stuck. You have to be, take off the Band-Aid. You got to look at the wound. You can't be afraid to move forward because you are doing yourself a disservice. You don't know what else is ahead. And it's not serving you because whatever happened, you can't go back to. Yeah, people do. They will pick up a conversation that happened, years ago, and you may not even remember it. I'm like, I remember, I could say I remember things, but it's just that it's a memory. It's not a place that's alive to me anymore. It's something that happened, in a space and in a time back then. It's not, relative right now. It's good for reminiscing, but it is not good for progression. So
Yeah.
I just want to recap kind of what we talked about, and then Coach Nick, my twin, I want you to jump in and share something with us before I get to our final point on tonight. This has been a good conversation. And thank you guys for everybody tuning in and listening. It's been another amazing month. I'm glad that we are closing it and wrapping it up this way. And I'll tell you at the end of this, I'll tell you all about May, because May is going to go down just like it has been in the months past. Tonight we're talking about checkmate, those things that happen in relationships that block us into a corner and block us and that prevent us from moving forward so that we can win in the relationship. And we will just, this is our part 2, and we will just touch in on a few new things. One of the things we touched on was the fact that are we dating or drawn to the person that our parents are, in the sense of, are we comparing how our relationship with our parents to the relationship that we have with our potential spouses or our mates? Are we expecting them to love us and treat us in the same capacity as our mother or our father did? You know, as women, sometimes we may expect our husbands to pick up where our dads left off, and the relationship is different. And because we're expecting our father out of our husband, and that's 2 different angles, we have set ourselves up, you know, for some disservices in those relationships. We talked about the fact that women are reciprocators, not initiators, that she steps after you step. And when you lead, she follows. We talked about the relationship momentum, about men setting the pace for the relationship so that I can respond. I can respond and reciprocate what you have already set us up for. That relationship momentum is important, whether, you know, because men sometimes, if you move too slow, are we stagnant? Is there slow movement? We need to pick a pace. And Theo gave a great example that if you're moving down here and I'm moving up here, you know, although we still may be moving upward this way, there's still that distance between us that we are never connecting. And even when we get here, this is not the goal. Our goal is to build from where we are connected. You know, we have to have a plane level playing field, excuse me. And then we can build. But if you're forever playing catch up, or if one of us is forever playing catch up, we'll always be unbalanced. And then our relationship momentum is off. We don't know where we are and what we are. And so that's pretty much where we left off at this point. So I'm going to yield my mic. Coach Nick, what are your thoughts, feelings? What do you want to throw in this conversation at this moment?
Can I say y'all been on a juicy, meaty conversation? Uh, I don't know what to add. I don't think there's anything I could add. Y'all have hit the ranges. I came in when the Queen was talking about mental health and healing, and I was like, "Ooh, facts." And I'm thinking about all the stuff going through my head, and I'm listening to you talk, and I'm like, "Well, it really ain't much I can say. Y'all have done the thing. Like, do I have a piece of dessert to add to this buffet?" Um,
Of course you do.
wow. But when you were talking, twin, a thought came in my head. You said that are women sometimes looking for men to pick up where their fathers left off? And then you have the other end of that spectrum. Am I looking for you to be everything my father was not? If my father
Mm,
wasn't present, if my father was abusive, if my father talked to me a certain way, am I looking to you to be who he was um, in a dysfunctional way? Because I saw that. That's all I saw. I saw my dad treat my mom like that. My uncle treat my auntie like that. So like that's all I've seen. So that's what I'm expecting, to the point that I will push you away because you're not giving me what I thought relationships were supposed to be. Don't couples argue? Don't men hit their women? Don't men cheat? And I'm gonna flip it. Men can feel the same way about women and their moms. Women can feel like that
exactly.
about
Yes, ma'am.
men according, yeah, women can feel like that about men according to their mothers as well. Because if your mama angry and your auntie is angry, and everybody teaching you men ain't you know what, and you do this to a man and you do that, then guess what? That's what you are probably going to emulate in relationships. So, emulate, excuse me, in relationships. So I don't know. Like I said, I don't know what to add to y'all good meaty conversation, but yeah.
No, that was good because you made that good point, and you not even being here touched on some of the very things that we did, that we did
Mm-hmm.
mention, and the fact that, like you said, are we being the thing or the person that our parents were not to us,
Mm-hmm.
and I was mentioning the point that, when we are expecting, I don't expect a man to be my father. And Dr. Elaine brought up a good point about, the provision, the protection, the respect, like those principles I expect from you. However, I don't expect them to be executed in the same way, because what I got from my father is different from what I need from you, because the relationships are different, how that presents. So you made a very good point. Like you said, if your mama and your auntie, they angry and they disrespect men and all of that, women, we have to be mindful of the examples, women and men, of the examples that, we are gleaning from, so that's really, really good. Thank you for that, twin. I appreciate it. We appreciate it. See, you lend to the conversation. You adding, you dropping your gems in there. Don't act like that. Don't do that.
Mm-mm.
You,
Mm-mm.
you know
You
stuff.
said, you see, you had said it, you had touched on it already. I tell you, ain't got nothing I can add to the stuff.
No, ma'am. I said we touched on it, but you iced it. You
Yeah.
iced it. We just warmed it up for you because we knew you was coming. We just was warming it up.
Yeah.
All right.
You
Cool.
know, So one of the last things that I wanted to talk about as we're talking, we really want to talk about the things that, again, not putting ourselves in a checkmate position in our relationships. Take some self-examination, because sometimes we are self-sabotaging our relationships by the things that we do, by the things that we don't do, by what we're saying and what we don't say. But at the end of the day, it's how we're showing up. We put ourselves in a corner quite often, and put our partner in a corner quite often, when we are not willing to walk the work out so that we can get to the win. We should never pit ourselves against each other and back each other into spaces that we feel that the only way out is through separation. I feel like at this point in life, we have to stop quitting on one another. And this last one is something that is like really important to me and really personal to me as well. And so I want you ladies to, share your thoughts and your feelings about how these things affect us putting ourselves into a checkmate position, which is time and attention equal connection. When we don't spend the proper time with one another, and when we don't give each other the proper attention or the necessary attention, it diminishes and cuts off the connection that we have with one another, which again pits us in opposite corners, because it makes us feel unwanted. It makes us feel unimportant. It makes us feel overlooked. It makes us feel unneeded, or you only need me when it's serving you. If we only have conversations when you want to talk, then that makes me feel like your attention is not on me. Your attention is on you. And if you only make time for me when you want something, or vice versa, when we only make time for someone when we want something, we are making that other person feel like they are, a space holder. And those are things in relationships that we should never have our partners feeling. We need to make sure that we are making our partners feel that they are worthy of our time, that they have our attention, that I don't have to teach you how to give me attention. You need to be able to show up, or we need to be able to show up authentically as who we are. I have a thing like, I will never chase you for time nor attention. I will just watch your pattern. I will see how your schedule, and I'll flow with it. And when I'm done flowing with it, I'm done flowing with it. We all need a certain amount of time and a certain amount of attention in order to feed and fuel our relationship, so that we continue to build our connection. You cannot build a connection with someone without putting in that time and that attention. And those are the things that lead us to the intimacy that we are looking for in relationships, not the physical, because physical contact is not necessarily intimacy. It's not the same, but that time and that attention is what equals to that connection that leads us or gives us that intimacy that we want, that keeps us together and keeps us going. So what are your thoughts, ladies? Whoever wants to jump in first is fine.
I mean, I think that is definitely true, but you know me, I'm really big on intention, right? And that actually is something that came out of the healing piece as well. But I think that we have to be intentional, right, about when it comes to time and attention, right? Because I think we, one, definitely need to know the other person's love language, right? We need to know, how that other person might like spending time, right? And although it may not be something that we don't like doing, right? Are we going to compromise and say, okay, maybe I'm not an outdoors person, right? And I'm just using it as an example, but this is something that my partner likes to do, right? So can I compromise and spend some time with them doing this, right? But I do think that there has to be some intention in us making time for each other. Like I honestly will say is like when you said you will flow with someone's schedule and you're not going to chase them after time. I'm like that, but I do recognize that in my last relationship, I think that kind of put me in the situation that I ended up in because I was so laid back with where I'm not, your schedule is your schedule, so he had a lot of opportunity to be doing a lot of things that I didn't even know was happening, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm not going to chase you for your time, but I'm going to be mindful of the fact that you are not making spending time with me of importance, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because I do believe that people make time for what they want to make time for, right? And so that is one thing that I've learned that I'm conscious of as well is because like me, I'll make time for the things that I really want to do, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so I think if someone wants to spend time with me or be with me or whatever, they're gonna be intentional about making time to do that, right? So I do agree that I'm not gonna be running after you. I'm not gonna be chasing you down to spend time with me, but I'm gonna be mindful of the fact that you're not putting in the effort to
Mm-hmm.
make time to spend with me. And I'm going to also, because I am self aware, right? My EQ is higher than most people, right? I'm going to be aware of how I'm showing up in that space as well. Because that may mean that I may have to look at the dynamic in this relationship. Because if I'm not making time to spend with you, why is that? Why isn't it important for me to make time to spend with you, right? And so I think we do have to be mindful of that. Are we making time for each other? Are we intentional about that? And if it's not happening, we may need to have a conversation about what's going on, that we're not putting in the effort to spend time with one another.
I agree with that. Yeah, I'm big on intentionality as well. Because my thing is this: we are intentional in everything that we do. We are intentional in making that time, like 5 minutes to have a personal conversation a day is not too much to add because we're all busy. We're all multitasking. We all have many things that go on. No one wants to feel like the afterthought, you know. Um, and I like you. I'm glad you said it because I am, like I said, later. I'm okay, right? Because I'm not going to. Because if this is how your day is and this is how your life is, I'm not intrusive and I'm not self-insertive. I'm only going to come in for as much as you allow. I'm only going to for whatever that space is. Like I'm not going. If you don't open up to let me in, I'm not going to push my way in because then it's not welcoming. You know, Um, and sometimes my being nonchalant, I know, can also be taken as a lack of care. No, it's not that I don't care. I'm trying to guard how much I care, because if I give you all of my feelings, then that leaves me open and vulnerable and at risk, and you're not responsive or reciprocating, then where am I? Then I'm doing all the work. Then I feel like I'm in it by myself, or I'm the one who's feeding the emotional energy into the relationship. It has to be that give and take. And I think that is only fair. We all want to feel purposeful, and wanted. No one, like I said, wants to feel like the afterthought. Um, and I agree. We have to know how you have to know how your partner receives that love. How this is how I need to um be made to feel important, or made to feel like I have a place in your life, or made to feel like I'm not just another thing for that you have to do on your list of things for the. Oh, okay, let me call down because okay, at 10:05 I have 10 minutes. Let me just pencil in. Oh, let me text Theo right now because at 11 o'clock I have a meeting. Oh, let me stop by Nikki at 6:10 because I have 10 minutes. Like, you don't want to feel like another thing to do. But in reality, we know that everyone is busy and we have busy lives. But we also just have to be really considerate, because again, that intentionality works both ways. You are either intentionally present or you are intentionally absent. I know whether I called you or not because I called you or not. I'm aware. you know and there are other things, but we do have to. But that also tells me how much of a priority that I am, or where I am amongst your list of priorities. And like you said, then we have to have a conversation that assesses the relationship and the tone of the relationship, and we're okay, well then maybe we need to just stay friends. Or maybe because you could be thinking that y'all are moving in a certain direction or wanting more, and the other person is like, I can only give you this. So then we have to adjust until something changes. So that was really good. I like I said, I'm big on intentionality too. I never want the person I'm with to feel unwanted, uncared for, like an afterthought, or that I won't have time for them. I will always not make time for you, but I will purpose time for you. What you say, Coach Nikki? Come on, twin.
I love what both you and Queen Carter are saying. Knowing what you want going into a relationship, in my opinion, is incredibly important. I know what I want and I know what I don't want. And I know at different phases of life, you want things differently. So on May the 14th, I turned 49 years old. At this juncture in my life, I know
Come
what
on.
I don't want. I absolutely know what I do not want, and I absolutely know what I do want. So I'm paying very close attention to your intentions and your actions when we are beginning our relationship. I'm having conversations, I'm asking the questions, but I'm also just paying attention to what you don't say and what you do say by the things that you do. And for me, time is treasure. Time is treasure. And whether you work all the time, you work out in the gym all the time, you hang with your friends, all whatever it is, where you're putting that time, you treasure it for the duration that you're doing it. And most people will put their 100% into whatever that is. So if it's, say, a man working out, he in that gym killing it. He may look at some booty when it passed by, but he focused on them barbells. You hear me? Because he paying attention to what he doing. So somebody in a relationship or in a pending relationship that will always have a reason why they don't have time to have a conversation with me. They don't have time to ask me out or whatever it is. I'm not even mad at you. I actually see right now in the preview, in the trailer version of what it would be like with you, the way it would be if I get into a relationship with you. And here's
Come
the
on
thing.
with the version.
If I did a podcast episode one time called "What If People Came with a 30-second trailer," but anyway, that's another conversation. And
Smart.
so if I'm looking at this, I have to go into the relationship knowing if I commit to you, this is what I'm gonna get. Gone are the days when Nikki was so ignorant back in her younger years when she thought she knew everything, didn't know no better, thinking that,
Mm-hmm.
oh, but when you get with me, you're going to change that. No, when you get with me, your representative leaves and it gets amplified. What I saw is what I'm going to get. Unless you're in a place within yourself to say, I want to change because I don't want to lose this woman, or I don't want to not be in this marriage, or whatever it is. But if this is
Say
how
it
you
again.
feel you want to be, I'm sorry.
I said, say it again. That part.
Yeah,
I'm going
if
to, what?
that I'm willing to. I'm willing to change because I want to save this marriage, or I want to be with that woman. I don't want to lose her. Now, men, don't let me lose you, but I've never been a man, so I can only speak from a woman's point of view. But a woman will do the same thing. If this man is begging you to cook and begging you to not always go out with your friends and spend time with him, and he's legitimate about these requests, you're going to hear this man. However, and but if you are like you are and you hit them clubs every weekend, and this man get into a relationship with you knowing that you do clubs every Friday and Saturday and Sunday, even after church, and think he gonna change that in you when y'all get together, he's the one at fault, not you, because you always been who you always were, and he was gonna always get what he always had in the first place. So those things are important to me going in, knowing what I do and what I don't want, and paying very close attention. Now, as I say that, at the other side of my mouth, I do know that it takes time for people to grow into doing things differently. You may have a man that genuinely loves you, but he got to get used to doing things in a certain way because he been himself before he met you, right? So
That part.
I can see the try and the change. I can see when someone is genuinely trying and maybe they keep missing the mark, but they're trying. It's when you are refusing. I don't care how many times, like, I done asked you, can we have a sit down and come to Jesus conversation? I don't care how many times I got to tell you, I'm really feeling neglected. Like we ain't spending no time. By time number 3, if you make it to 3, I've said it and you've done nothing to change. That's my permission slip, my walking papers, my peace out, whatever you want to call it. It's time for me to go because what I won't do is frustrate my life and agitate this peace that I love that God done built up in me with trying to beg you and drag you and plead and get you to do something that you obviously don't want to do. Because here's the thing, and I'm done. You ain't got to show me but once. I might give you twice that you don't want to open, avail, make, or whatever the word is, time for me. Once I see that you don't have it, I'm good. You're not a bad man. You're just not good for me, and I'm out. And I'm done.
Listen, and she said what she said.
Yes.
What she said. Okay, I love. I'm just. I can't even. I got nothing. I just got nothing.
And listen, I'm like, mm,
The only thing, I mean, she wrapped it up with a bow and everything and put it on the table like your parting gift after you leave in the party. You know, here's your goodie bag. Thank you for coming.
Not
Just
the
like, well,
party
what
favor.
we do? Say, what now?
Not the party favor.
and you want to make sure you get the party favor too. That's how good the party favor is.
Are you sure? She said, oh, you gonna leave this place with a good bag. You gonna leave with your goodie bag. Yes, you are. Okay, when you leave here. I ain't mad at that. But and you answered the very thing that I was gonna ask even before we have to ask you. We talked about that patience, you know, to grow into when you're in that space with someone trying to navigate it. There's a patience that's required.
Mm-hmm.
Um, for us to have. I know for me, my problem is, and I ain't even gonna lie, I'm being transparent because I'm reformed. My issue is I've been patient, and this is okay. I hear my own self. I hear you, Lord. All right, but I'm saying it again. I just had a whole conversation. Just did
It's like,
you see it? You saw it happening?
Yeah, I love Revelation. Some water question coming out. Yeah, go ahead.
I was like, oh, okay, all right. Uh, I was gonna say my problem is I have been patient with so many of the wrong people, like patiently waiting for the wrong people.
Mm-hmm.
mhm.
You know, so so for me, in a sense, getting with the right person. Now I'm nervous about that patience, that patient time that I'm waiting for you to groom to become doing the same thing that it's not going to yield anything. So why am I waiting? Where's I ain't got time. I don't have no more time to be patient. And literally, God was just like, well, because of what? Because who were you waiting for? Like, you gave patience to people that you knew weren't going to be able to give you nothing at the end of you being patient. The situation was not going to change. So yes, you wasted your patience, but now don't take that out on the person who is worth being patient with for them to grow.
Mm.
Because then you self-sabotaging
Yeah.
the good thing, and you have to learn how to now apply all those things, because you made those decisions. I didn't make them for you. That was your choice. I didn't force you. You did this, but you said you wanted to be what you wanted to do, and he was whatever. That was on you.
Yeah.
But what I put in you, now when I put the right person in your life, and when you connect with the right person, you can't not be there for them and provide these things for them, because you now have an issue or feeling triggered by your past choices. Because for them, it was for this one. So how you gonna treat the right one wrong now because the wrong ones weren't right, but you treated them right and they ain't even here no more. You know.
I mean,
So
that's so good. I think one of the things I had to learn was, one, I had to learn to retrust myself, right? I had to learn to trust myself, right? That was
say
one, right? But the other thing that I
learn.
realized is, if I have to make excuses for your behavior or lack of, like, then, like, maybe once, okay, but like, if I find myself consistently making excuses for why you're not showing up, or why you're not doing this, or why you did that, then I need to reevaluate
Queen
what
Carter.
the relationship.
Queen Carter. Okay.
Yes.
When you consistently make excuses, you are consistently compromising.
Exactly. And
With other
that's one thing that I had to learn, Coach Nick.
Then your compromise becomes, we normalize
Mhm.
compromise
Yeah.
to the wrong things,
Yeah.
to the wrong thing, which is crazy work, you know. And I mean, I just had a whole conversation with my, just in real time. Like, oh, all right. So you got to sit it out. You got to walk this one out. You got to deal with where it is. But you're right, and I've done that. I've made somebody. No, he's not, and you just got to be knowing daggone well inside. Yes, he is. You know that he is. You know he is before anybody else knew he was. What you talking about? But don't try to save face and make it look good. And like, no, it's gonna be fun. No, no. And then we try to make our word good by trying to make them look good, you know. And again, and this works for women. It works both ways. It works on both sides, right? Come on, Coach Nick. Come
Come on,
on, come
Coach Nick.
on.
I gotta say this. I gotta say this. Ultimately, these issues we going through in some of these relationships, they're self-inflicted. I ain't talking about
Mm,
somebody that abuses you. Take out abuse. We ain't talking about that. They're self-inflicted because the power lies in you to always
mhm,
walk away. But we stay and we make excuses and we compromise and we give opportunity after opportunity for the potential to finally arise, for the potential to finally present itself. When ultimately you don't have to be with somebody that talks to you nasty. You don't have to be with somebody that cusses you out. You don't have to be with somebody that you got to blow up their phone because y'all had a date. He's supposed to be picking you up, or she's supposed to be picking you up at 8 o'clock, and it's 10, and you ain't had to work. You don't have to be with somebody that treats you like that. God
mm,
don't treat you like that. So you gonna take less than that? You were happier, I'm sure, when you were by yourself. You thought you were more miserable because you were single. No, you're more miserable in this dysfunctional relationship that you don't
mm.
have to be in. Because ultimately, you have the power to say peace out and be blessed.
Come
You
on,
know what?
and
Come
be
on.
I realize we're not good together. You're not a bad person. You're
Yeah.
just good for me. And so, with that being said, I think we could save ourselves so much undue stress, weight loss and weight gain, relationship damage, brokenness, heartache by not staying. You wouldn't let your child keep running out in traffic, but yet in this relationship, you keep running out in traffic. You've been hurt more than once, twice, and 5 times by the same person, but you keep giving them opportunity. For what?
Mhm.
Mm.
For what? They've shown you once. twice. 3 times you cried real hard on the second time. On that fourth time you was praying. Then you got to go into a fast because you like, God, I need to know if this is even for me. If you got to do all of that, that's probably not for you. I don't think God will put you in a relationship where you got to fast and ask the Lord, is this really for me? I got to be before you crying, not in worship because I'm grateful of you gave me this good thing. I'm crying because I'm like broken and I need you to heal me. That from the Lord?
Ooh.
Really? Really? And then here we go. 5 years later, 10 years later, sometime a year later, you realize or you finally acknowledge that was never from the Lord. So now you got to be rebuilt and you got to go cut your hair and start over, go lose weight, and pick up the weight because you were so stressed you wasn't eating. You got to thing that you had material wise because they came in and tore your stuff down. I'm talking to the men too. So just don't forget this. Ultimately, we have the power to walk away from the things that don't glorify him and don't glorify you. They don't edify or lift you up. And if I got to call my homegirl one more time and talk about you or cry about you or have another eat up all the ice cream sessions because you done hurt my heart again, you're probably not for me. Why am I putting this much life, time, and energy into something like that? I could be putting that into myself and enjoying my life.
I'm about to throw my shoe.
I'm ducking.
Listen,
Stay out.
You making up for what you missed in the beginning. You making up for this is your section. This was your section.
I'm like, come on now.
I'm just for you, y'all. I've been in so many one-ships. I don't call them relationships. They are one-ships. I've been hurt. I've been all the things. So I'm at a place where this is why I'm single and I'm okay. Like I'm not man hating because I love me a good old king. Don't get me wrong. But when I see red flags right now, I see them. I see them. I see them, Lord. I see them.
Oh, I see them when they pink. And they didn't even get the red yet. I'm so good. I see the pink flag. I see it as the light pink flag. I see it when he's first changed from white. Yep, sure enough, do. But we're not doing this no more.
Yeah, that
ain't nobody. I don't have that kind of emotional space anymore. Like I can't.
Or energy. The last one ship I was in, the Lord had to do so much. And I remember asking, you and I had this discussion on one of our Friday Power Panels twin. I remember asking the Lord, how broken was I in that? How much
you made me.
I tell you what, if it's still needed, please do it because I don't ever want to do that again.
Oh my God. Tell me about it. Oh.
I think we've all been there in that space. Like I didn't know how depressed I was until I had to come out. I didn't know how far I had gotten away from myself until I tried to get back to me.
Yeah.
I didn't know how off my square I was until I tried to get back in the box. Because you know, it's one thing. Getting down is one thing. You know, but getting back up, it takes a whole different kind of energy. It's a whole different kind of move. You know, it's a beast of a whole different motion. You know, and we don't know. Yeah. We don't know. And you just keep digging yourself deeper and deeper. And because sometimes it's so subtle, and sometimes we become so, this is my favorite word because I really feel that it is applicable to the whole state of the world that we're in right now. We are so desensitized to so many things. Our emotions are so desensitized that we don't even know really in some cases what pain even feels like anymore because we've experienced so much of it that is normal, and we build up a certain resistance, you know, that like we build up that resistance and we keep it moving because we don't try to fix the pain. You know, it's like when you have a headache and you keep pressing through the day with the headache, and instead of addressing the headache, you're just adjusting to it, and then you become used to working with the headache. So then, you know, after a few days, you still having this headache. It's just your norm because you were able to press your way through it and work past it and be functioning, like you said about earlier, Theo, you were this is your norm. Like, no, nothing's wrong because I can manage it.
Yeah.
Oh, we think we're man, but the key is like we're not supposed to be receptive.
But what's so crazy is, like you said, like remember I said I struggled with functional depression, right? And the last relationship is when I couldn't function in the depression. Like I was like, oh my God, I can't get out of this, right? Like, and I never want someone to bring me to that space again, right? Because the functional depression was, other things that may happen, but that, like, I got to a space where I literally was like, I get up in the morning, I gotta go to work, okay, go to the gym, your clothes are in the back, they're in the trunk. Nah, I can't do it. I gotta go home. I'm gonna get in the bed, right? I'm gonna go to sleep. I'm quoting scriptures. I'm quoting either vengeance is mine, saith the Lord, right?
Lord.
Or God heals the brokenhearted, right? But I got to a space where I literally had to let people know I wasn't okay. Which wasn't my norm. My norm was, I'm good. I literally had to let people know I am not good.
Right.
Just because you ran out of your fix it. You know how you have to revise things sometimes, even on your job. Like, you do the same thing so much and you get excited, but you find your workaround and you find, okay, today I'm gonna be excited about the job because of this. We then get to a point where I don't have any more workarounds. I don't have any more potential fixes. I don't have any more redirections. I don't. Now I have to face it.
I think it was also God saying, listen, I need you to be focused on me. I really like, I need you to be in a space where nothing is going to bring you out of this but me. And now mind you, I broke up with him during the time. I was like, you know what, God, I don't really know what to say to you right now. I'm like, we not talking. Every day I was talking to him to tell him that I'm not talking to him, right? But it was a time where not only did I go back into therapy, but there was a desire for me to be so much closer to him, studying his word, being on my knees, right? Listening for his voice, right? Like it really became a period where I began to say yes to things that I normally wouldn't say yes to, the book. Because after I said yes, I was like, why did you say yes? But it was such a, I want to say, transformative time in my life, right? Like there is definitely protection and rejection, right? I know people think that's a cliche, but there is truly a protection in rejection. The things that you think, why are you taking this away from me, God? Why are you saying no? Why can't I have this? There's a reason for that.
Mm-hmm.
There's definitely purpose in your pain. I came out of that not only healed, I came out of that a published author. I came out of that an entrepreneur.
She sure did. She's right there. See, she's right there.
Came out of that
Next to me, that's me.
knowing who I am, right? And like Coach Nick said, right? Recognizing what I was not going to entertain any longer, because no one can love me better than God can love me.
That's
and
right.
better than I can love myself.
Right. Queen Carter, as you was talking, I know, I'm sorry. Queen, you probably trying to end the show. Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Go ahead, twin. You good?
Okay. As she was talking, And toward the end of what you were saying earlier, twin, I started thinking about two things. There's a question that we should ask ourselves when we find ourselves in relationships that don't feel healthy.
Mm-hmm.
And the other thing would be having a warm body. So don't forget the warm body part.
Mm-hmm.
The question should be then, why am I here? Or
Mm-hmm.
why do I stay? And the answer cannot involve the person that you're having this question about. You have to be able to answer
Mm.
that question and it be in and of yourself. The
Mm-hmm.
second thing would be is don't stay or don't even enter into one that you know is dysfunctional or stay in one that you know is harmful or detrimental just to have a warm body.
Mm-hmm.
Because the loneliness was so lonely, you're happy to have somebody, but that somebody is causing misery and you are allowing it because you're staying in it. Now,
Mm-hmm.
we know situations can be much more dire that require some help legally, that require some help safety wise, that require some therapy, all the things. But we're talking about when you can criticize and don't ignore them. We're talking at the beginning. A lot of the times, it don't take you to be in these relationships long before the dysfunction has already presented itself. We're talking about if you have been in it for a long time, and you every now and again start wondering, why am I here? I want you to be asking yourself these questions. These reflective questions will make you start to go introspectively and make you really start to question at the core, at the root. Why are you with this person? And it
Mm-hmm.
can't be because they're good to me. It can't be because, well, at least they helped me raise my child. This ain't their child. No, no, no. You got to be able to answer that from a place of you. And if you cannot, you probably have settled. If you cannot, you are probably compromising. And if
Mm-hmm.
you cannot, you probably know in your heart of hearts that ain't no way in the world the Lord put y'all two together. Now, will he work through that relationship to probably get you to a place? I've seen him do it in my life.
Mm-hmm.
Do it in my life. He did not open the door for it, but since I was so hard headed, and even though he kept showing me to leave, and I didn't, some things happened that, Lord, I wish they would not have, but they also helped to make me who I am today. However, I know he didn't put me in relationships. I know he did not. So those are my thoughts.
Oh my God, I love that because it is exactly, you just said exactly what was my journey was. I remember saying to one of my girls, I thought this man was sent to me by God. And then my girl was like, so do you still believe that? And I said, yes, because I believe God sent this man to me because there was a lesson that I needed to learn. Right. And so when I came out of my journey, here is the thing that I learned, and I hope somebody else that might be identifying with this catches it. I was in these relationships that, like Coach Nick said, being hard headed, right? Because I was in love with being in love more than I was loving myself,
Come on.
That's
right?
good.
And so that is the biggest lesson I learned out of my journey was you need to focus on loving yourself because you've been so intent on loving being in love that you've been settling, you've been compromising, you've been accepting stuff that you should not be accepting. So if you are someone out here that you are just so in love with the thought of being in a relationship, of being with somebody, I need you to take a step back and focus on loving yourself.
Y'all have heard it here. I got nothing. All I say, as Twin was talking, Coach Nick, anytime we have to start a sentence with, well, at least, we most of the, I'm gonna say 8 times out of 10, you've already settled, and you're trying to make your settlement valuable. Because you're saying, well, he might not do that, but he does this, or she might not do that, but she does this. Well, at least why no?
Justifying our choices and our decisions to stay.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
And the truth of the matter is, when it is for you and you are 10 toes down in it, you won't start with at least. You already know that there's an insufficiency. You already know that there's something that's not adequate, something is missing. You won't, when, and it doesn't mean, again, this is not about perfection.
Nope.
Someone can be perfect for you. Are we graced for each other? And when we are graced for each other, you will never hear me start a sentence saying, well, at least he. And I'm like, no, I'm going to start my sentence with, he does,
Mm-hmm.
and he is.
Mm-hmm.
It's not an at least. It's not a comparison. It's not a, there's nothing missing. There's nothing lacking, and he is whole and so am I, and vice versa. And again, men, we are not, we're three women who date men. So, we talking for our perspective, but, it works the other way around just as well. We're saying this for both sexes. It is just the same. I will say that. And Coach Theo, the fact that you share, and so very true. I would say we definitely have, if we start with that pause that she's talking about and learn to love yourself first and be in love with yourself, you won't be looking for someone else to love the pieces of you that you think are unlovable, because you have already loved every bit of you. I said this before and I say it again. I might not like everything about me, but I love all of me every day. All of me. And I've had to learn I had to learn. I had to learn how to love all of me every day. If I never lose a pound, I got to love all of me every day.
Come on.
Okay, if I never, which I mean I am, I'm not speaking of, but if I never get to my doctorate degree, which I am, but guess what? I love all of me every day. I don't like the spaces that I've been in. I don't like the things I've settled for. I don't like some of the choices that I've made. I don't like the positions that I've allowed. That I said on Sunday, I signed up for 2 setups. I said this in church. I was talking about being married, and I realized in marriage and in relationships and whatnot, I said, nobody didn't. I signed up for the 2 setups because it was not God. God had nothing to do with it. And this made me think about it, Theo, when you were talking, about God sending. And again, like I said earlier in the show, we are believers. We so happen to be, you're going to get a little Jesus when you get me, because I'm a God's girl. But whatever your moral compass is, that's what you use and you gauge. For us, it is God, it is Christ. So when you hear us talking from that space, we know this is not a Christian network, but we're keeping it real from our space of experience and where we are at. But as you were sharing, Theo, what made me think about, because sometimes I've said the same thing, and I know the angle that you're coming from and what you're talking about. And, you believe that God sent it to you because there was a lesson for you to learn through that. And one of the things that came to me just from a separate angle is sometimes, because there's a lot of us women, we are so quick to say that, God sent it, and it's a point. Not, and this is not you, it's not your moment, but there are some of us out here that will use that as an excuse or as a means to justify and not take accountability and ownership for our decision, and we want to put it on God. But one of the things that I thought about was he sent by God, or did we bring him to God and God allowed it? Because there's a divine will and there's a permissive will, and God is not going to force you for either, So and that's on an individualistic basis, like on an individual basis, we got to think of, because I can definitely say, God, you didn't send it. You didn't send nothing my way.
No.
You told me no both times.
And I said, but God. And
I didn't.
But what, Lord?
Right, this brought to you, and this is what you allowed. You allowed your permissive will. You say, hey, okay, you know what? All right, but we got to be honest. Be willing to be honest about where we are. And when you are honest, I had to think about what was going on with me that I allowed myself into these spaces, knowing,
Mm-hmm.
and that's why I had to get to the point of doing the work to learn to love me first so that I can show up as me fully.
Mhm.
I know when something is not going to work, and it doesn't make you a bad person. It doesn't
Mhm.
mean that I'm the epitome of it all. It just means for me and my space, this is where we are, and this is where I'm not, and it's okay. And we have to be okay with being okay.
Yes.
So I want to thank you, ladies, so much for wrapping up this month of April with us. Men, I don't know where our men are, but hey, we here. So you know what, fellas? Sorry, it's ladies' night. We won. Um, Checkmate Part 2 is all about us. Maybe y'all can make up for it next month in the men's lounge. I don't know. But hey, we were here tonight. We had a great conversation, wrapping up this point of Checkmate, talking about the things that we do or happen in relationships that block us from winning, that sometimes we self-inflict. And just to recap, we talked about the fact of being people who are drawn to or try to date a person who is like our parents. We talked about the fact that women are reciprocators and not initiators. Women will step after you step. We follow where you lead, and you have to set a relationship momentum so that we are not stagnant. We're not moving in slow motion, or not evolving. We have to pick a pace. Pick a pace and let's work it together. We talked about time, the tension equals connection, which leads us to that intimate space that we all look to be in. We all want to live and love openly and freely. And we really hope that this conversation helps us to do better and show up better for each other. I know you guys got some nuggets on tonight, and I'm so glad that you're hanging out with us. I'm gonna give these ladies the space to have last words, so that I'm gonna just give our brief announcement so that you know what the lineup is for May, because it is yet again amazing, and these ladies will be back. So come on, Coach Theo, and then Coach Nick. I'm gonna let you have the final words. Tell the people something good as we wrap this up tonight.
I mean, I don't know. I think we have said it all. I mean, I think the main thing that I would say, and it was the biggest lesson that I have learned, is you really do have to fall in love with yourself. Like you have, no one is going to love
Amen.
you better than you can love yourself. And that's what I would say, like, and I think Coach Nick really said a lot, right? Like, oh my God, like I'm gonna probably have to go back and listen to this again, right? But I think the main thing
Right.
is just knowing who you are and what you are worthy of, right? And just really asking those questions that Coach Nick spoke about, and being realistic about the answers, right? Because you could ask yourself those questions, but then you could skew
Over the
the
answer.
right. And so I would say just be honest with yourself as well. Be honest with yourself.
That's good. That's good. Thank you for that. Final comments and nuggets. Y'all hold on to that. Come on, twin. Give the people your last final comments and thoughts for tonight.
Twin, thank you for having me on tonight. Coach Carter, I love you. I love your perspective and everything that you said that I got to hear tonight. I would love to tell the family watching, the next time you are by yourself, your boo is not around, Instagram is not around, TikTok, none of that stuff is around. Ask yourself, are you genuinely happy? Ask yourself, when all of the pictures and the posts and all of the people and the gifts and all of the things outside of you are gone, when that boo is gone, are you happy? And ask yourself, do you have more peace when they're not around than when they are?
Hmm.
Like if they leave your house and go to work, or leave your house to go home, and you go, "Phew," that's something to really, really, really think about. If you got more peace when they're not there, And the only time you find yourself genuinely smiling is when they're giving you something, or you're getting some type of gratification from outside stimulation, like somebody liking the picture of y'all together, making a comment on how cute y'all are together. But if this is not coming from an inward place and you are not genuinely happy, and again, ask this when you're by yourself, then I would highly recommend that you really consider who you are in this relationship and what this relationship is in your life, what it's doing, what benefits are you getting, or how many tears are you shedding? How many times are you scratching your head trying to figure out how much longer can I stay? Those are my thoughts.
Listen, I got nothing between the two of them. The coaches have spoken. Okay. So I'm just gonna leave it at, let me get some background music because that's that's all I can do. The coaches have spoken. Catch the replay, watch it, listen to it as you travel. Thank you everyone for tuning in tonight. And I want to thank Coach Theo and my twin coach Nick for being here in the house tonight to have this conversation and to wrap up the month of April. It was amazing. I could not do anything that I do without these ladies and then some. So if you think January was good and February was loving and March was amazing and April was off the chart, let me tell you, May, June, July, August, September, October, November, and December are just going to get better and better. So invite a friend to join us again next Thursday at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time right here on the Bravo with Sheila Network with me, your host, Lady Dawn B. Just to give you an idea of what May is going to look like, because we are saluting the women all month long because Mother's Day is next month. So how are we going to do that? Next Thursday, we're going to start off the month of May with a session called Womanhood, Sisterhood, Motherhood. We're going to talk about all the not dynamical. I just made that word up. That's how I'm gonna say it again. All the dynamical, because that's how I felt it in my spirit, in my shanana. The dynamical things that come along with being a woman, with being a sister, with being a mother. And how do we achieve all and still keep ourselves on point? And then we have the ladies of the ladies room coming back on May 8th, and we are going to be talking about the making of a mother. We got our sisters coming in here, and they're going to drop some information. Why? Because it's right before Mother's Day and we want to salute. It doesn't mean you had to push a child out, but guess what? You're here because of who your mother, and we want to help our ladies be encouraged in the jobs that they are doing. Then on the 15th, we have the men's lounge coming back, and they are going to be talking about a woman's worth in a man's world. Oh my goodness, this is bound to be good, but it's not over yet. I got news for you. It went great the first time. We got our next round of what? Dawn B After Dark relationship talk coming through on the 22nd. That edition starts at 8 p.m. On the 22nd. Why? Because we know we turn the corner at 8:30 every week, right? And last but not least, because May, we are blessed with an extra Thursday night. So we're going to do something extra special. And this is a personal special edition for me. We are going to be talking about, our topic that night is going to be pretty for a big girl. That's right. We are going to be talking about self-image and body confidence.
Hey.
Because, okay, be prepared to be really real, okay? Because I'm going to be bringing it to you. When we hear this, oh, you pretty for a big girl, that is the worst backhanded comment I have ever heard. Love, we going to normalize being pretty, period. Because that's what we are. So we're going to make that special edition happen and take place. And we are going to have a great time. So again, thank you all. Please like, subscribe, and share. If you have not yet, hit that thumbs up button on your way out as the exit for the night. Thank you to all of you. Bravo Nation. You are the greatest nation to ever exist. And I love you so very much. Thank you again, Coach Nick. Thank you again, Coach Theo. I'm going to get a coach in front of my name real soon. Don't play with it. It's going to be the 3 coaches. That's what we're going to do up here. So y'all come on back. You hear? Make sure that you tune in tomorrow at 11 a.m. over on the Bravo with Sheila Network. for the women of grace sharing the word. And come back Monday night for Monday Beyond the Mic with Dr. E and me, your girl, Lady Dawn B, at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Hang tight, y'all. Have a great Friday. And happy birthday, early Coach Theo. We love you. We love you. Hope you have an amazing, amazing birthday. Thank you for doing what you do.
Thank you, sis.
You're welcome.
Probably will, cause I can never give up. I got my goals calling me, how could I never pick up? Either we make up or just break up, and the snake hits get the rake up. Yeah, selfish, I'ma cake up if I don't shake me to wake up. Let my depression catapult me to succession. Shine a light on my imperfections like a projection. Every struggle and lesson, your issues ain't your oppression. Never got